We live. And feel free to stream this to Cyber Caliphate if you want a copy too. It should be available on the top, so we can get some people in here and ready for the show tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And then let's see here. All right, cool. I'm gonna connect some different audio, and I'll be right back. But let's see what Android Shilson has to talk about today.
Yeah, we're about to review this trash ass video. Distribute distributing straight neuro crack. So yeah, so we about to do this. All right, there we go.
I've got a fantastic one for you today. We have got Andrew Wilson versus Zoltan Istvan. And today the debate prompt is going to be transhumanism versus Christianity. Which is better for the future of America? Should be a very interesting one. We're going to have 5 minutes of opening statements, and then we're going to kick it in.
So it's funny, the two positions that Wilson is willing to draw for, right? He's willing to call it a draw for Zionism, right? He says he's not going to support the Palestinians, right? He's not going to fully support the Jews, but, you know, some of his patriarchs support the Jews, and he's not going to go ahead and stop them from doing that, right? He's just going to toe the line, right? It's the same thing with transhumanism. He's going to sort of toe the line with transhumanism, right? He knows that a certain push for transhumanism is causing technological advancement, so he wants that, right? He thinks Christians should support technological advancement, right? But in terms of transhumanism, he just thinks that it should have a Christian tinge to it. He doesn't reject transhumanism, right? Just like he doesn't reject, Zionism. He just thinks that Christians should be in power, right? And as long as Jews support that, that's fine, right? But he's not going to go out of his way to either support Jews or to support people who are against Jews, right? Or go against Zionism, right? No. Same way, he's not going to go against transhumanism, right? It's crazy, right?
To open dialogue, and at the end I will read your super chats out. Now, depending on the volume of super chats, we may not be able to read all of them. It would probably be 20 up or something like that, just as a fair warning there. So without further ado, I'm going to have the gentlemen introduce themselves. Zoltan, for those who haven't met you, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for having me. This is pretty exciting. I've followed both Jake and Andrew's work for a long time. As he said, my name is Zoltan Istvan, and I'm a transhumanist, somebody who wants to use science and technology to radically improve the world. Another important fact of what's going on in my life right now is I'm running for California governor as a Democrat. However, don't let that scare you. I was also the endorsed.
So notice that, right? He said that his position is that he wants to use science and technology to improve the world. He's going to radically change his position several times during the debate. He's going to switch to saying he just wants to extend life, or he wants to improve human life, right? Okay, and sometimes he's not for improving technology, right? He's for a sort of techno-humanism, right? Whereas the technology can be used to improve human life, right? So his whole position that technology and science should be used to improve the world is kind of false, right? Because if technology and science improve the world and humanity suffers as a result, then he doesn't want that, right? So he supports, he says he supports nature, he supports human life, right? But he said he wants to change nature with technology, right? So later he's going to say, oh, he wants to live longer because he loves nature. But he just said he wants to change the world with technology. So how much does he love nature after all, right? So, I mean, this guy, his position is totally rootless. And Wilson doesn't attack it at all, right? It's crazy.
Libertarian candidate back in 2018 for California governor. So I'm not a true hardcore left-leaning progressive in any sense of that term. But I'm here actually to discuss transhumanism as it might apply to Christianity. And let's be honest, everywhere...
Just quickly, Zoltan, this is just our little introduction, and then we'll get into the opening statements. Just
a little introduction. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I gave
Andrew,
it already, and I'm ready to let you guys take it off, and then I'll go into my 5-minute speech.
Cool. Andrew, just for those of you who haven't met Andrew.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. It's a very popular entertainment channel on YouTube and other platforms. I'm a political analyst, a political satirist, and I engage in debates with people from all over the world. And I've been doing that for years. I'm happy that Mr. Istvan, is that how I say that? Istvan?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Are you Hungarian, Zoltan?
I have a Hungarian passport, but I was born in the United States.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, he's just asking like your background, your family hail from Hungary then?
Yes, absolutely. They escaped from the communist government.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mr. Istvan, I appreciate you coming on and take the time today. I don't get to talk to many transhumanists or debate with them, so I appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we'll kick it over to Bruce Buffer, who's just waiting backstage, and then we will get into the opening statements.
And now, for the thousands in attendance.
America, an experiment that has endured for nearly...
The fuck?
On the clock for your opening statement. Let's get into it.
Great. Well, I gave a little bit of my opening statement earlier. Listen, transhumanism is a social movement of many millions of people around the world that want to use science and technology to radically modify the human body and also modify the human experience. Anything from, using exoskeleton
This is what I'm pointing out. See, before he said you want to use science and technology to change the world. Now he's talking about human, right? So
exoskeleton suits to kind of climb Mount Everest when you're maybe a senior citizen, even to things like driverless cars, to brain implants, all sorts of wild stuff that is happening, including artificial intelligence. Let me quickly give a little bit of a background on how I even got into this. Exoskeleton suits to kind of climb Mount Everest when you're maybe a senior citizen, even to things like driverless cars, to brain implants, all sorts of wild stuff that is happening, including artificial intelligence. Let me quickly give a little bit of a background on how I even got into this. I began my career as a journalist for national.
yeah, so I don't think even if old people had like suits, despite they'd be like climbing Mount Everest or whatever, I don't know, and even if they did have like suits like that, they could climb, they'd probably use them for warfare, right? And other such things. Then, right, so I don't know. I don't think those types of suits would be like released to the public to go on like commercial expeditions and to like go like see like natural, like sights and shit, right? That's wishful thinking. Brain implants. That sounds like it could possibly take a dark turn, right?
Well, Epstein said the first thing you want to do is put brain chips in black people. So I mean, there you go.
Yeah, like none of his propositions, driverless cars, obviously that's a potential danger. People can hack into the car, kidnap motherfuckers and shit. Obviously, yeah, I mean, it's just all potential like potential like crazy shit. But yeah.
National Geographic. I've also been a correspondent for the New York Times. And I have been writing about technology as well as war zones and other issues for 30 years.
So he worked for National Geographic. So is that like, so did he work for Murdoch? right? Because Murdoch bought, like, News Corp bought National Geographic at some point. They bought Wall Street Journal and National Geographic, you know, because he worked for he worked for the channel. So I'm pretty sure that shit's owned by Fox. All right, so that's weird.
Yeah, and just a reminder, you guys can. I'm going to switch to my computer, so I'm going to jump off and jump on the computer. But you guys can restream to your places as well. I put in some good, what do you call it? Some good algorithm keywords, so it might this one might get some more play than usual. So I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
I mean, I have a ton of 300 plus op-ed essays out there and many more just normal essays. I have found that through the war zones I covered, especially for National Geographic, I became very afraid of dying. And because I am somebody who does not believe in...
so he's a Fed, like, newscaster that's working for, like, basically Fox News, because he's working for National Geographic. So he's like an international news reporter. Right, which those guys are usually Feds, right? So, so it's weird that this dude went from being a National Geographic, like, news reporter, like, international news, traveling around the world, right, to, like, for National Geographic, he said, right? So yeah, so this is highly strange, in my opinion.
Creator. It's not necessarily I don't believe. I'm kind of agnostic. I just haven't seen enough evidence or any evidence of a creator, and I certainly don't believe in an afterlife. I have chosen to dedicate my life to transhumanism. The number one goal of transhumanism is trying to overcome biological death with science and technology. And I assure you, based on just how we've done the last 100 years.
There it is. See, earlier he said, transhumanism is using science and technology to change the world. And now he said it's the goal of using science and technology is to extend human life, right? Which is his main platform as a politician was immortality. He rode around in a thing called the immortality bus. Okay, to preach about life extension technologies, right? So this is the dude, he ran for president, and he went around the country in an immortality bus. They're trying to show people, like, the benefits of transhumanism, right? So this dude.
Well, I just got one question for him about that bus. Is he got Bonnie Blue or weed in it?
Exactly.
Did, and they're going to continue to live dramatically longer as we start bringing in some of these brand new technologies.
But you know what's weird is that Stuart Brand, the prominent transhumanist, he was connected to Ken Kesey, right? Who was like on the he made a bus. He went around trying to wake people up, right, to take LSD, right? So
what were they called? The Merry Pranksters? Yeah. And also Brian Eno, the famous music producer, is a big part of his thing, and the Long Now Foundation is extremely influential.
It started by Stuart Brand, by the way. Yeah, so Stuart Brand and Danny Hillis, they're co-founders of the Long Now Foundation, and they're both, like, basically proponents of transhumanism, by the way.
Apparently we have 23 people watching right now. So whoever's watching, thank you for being here. So I don't know what the fuck happened, but
let me see what's going on. Let me see what's happening. Hold on.
Like, we went from like 3 to 23 in like 1 minute. So I don't know what's going on. But hello, everybody, if you're there.
Yeah, it's not on my channel. It seems like there's only 2 on my channel. So
I don't know. Okay, it went down to 20, but we're talking about life extension, transhumanism, Andrew Wilson, all the good stuff. So please feel free to join. If you want to join the discussion, type in the chat, let us know you're here. You're definitely welcome to come up as long as you're not, a dangerous individual. So, we just went down to 12. Okay, weird. All right, I guess let's keep talking about whatever we're talking about. What the fuck is going on?
genetic editing, artificial intelligence is starting to uncover these new drugs. There's a bunch of patents and a bunch of drugs that are going to human trials right now. Actually, I'd probably say within 18 to 24 months, you will have drugs in the market that, effectively make you live 20 to 30% longer already. So, and we have, 3D printed organs. We have organ transplants. We have all sorts of things that are starting to happen that enable you to live longer when something happens to you. And hopefully we'll even have things like universal vaccines for cancer and things like that. That, for example, Russia just launched apparently a couple days ago. Don't know if it works. But the point is, transhumanism is all around you. It's happening very quickly. And its number one goal is to overcome.
Yeah, you hear that, Wilson?
Go ahead.
The Russian church, that supports the Russian government. Oh yeah, they're handing out universal jabby stabbies. Wow.
Oh. I could use one of them. I'm over 300 pounds. Look at my fat ass in this wheelchair.
Well, what's weird is I don't know, man. I got so many thoughts on this. It's I just don't want to waste it because I don't want to detract from what we're doing here. But it's I have mixed. I'll be honest. I have mixed feelings on what they're saying. Like the idea that we could develop something that would prevent, aging, horribly, or disease-ridden bodies or something. It is very tempting, right? But it's also he hasn't defined what human life is. That's number one. He hasn't defined what health is. He hasn't defined any of these things, right? So it's just this kind of nebulous concept that he hasn't defined. So it's really, it's kind of what we were talking about last time. Really, what is he saying, right? Are we just assuming we know what he's saying, or? And it's we're talking about
according to the comments, many people understand what he's coming from. That Zoltan dude, from when you first sent me and I went investigating, I went through a lot of the comments, and people are, I would just put it this way: I would say the comments are split on half is with Andrew and the other half are with the Zoltan dude. But people are noticing the transhumanistic, I guess you could say, reoccurrence with him or whatever. People noticed the Resident Evil stuff immediately. Everyone was making Resident Evil jokes, Wesker jokes, calling Andrew Wilson Albert Wesker.
Who was saying that? Who was saying that?
People in the comments. That's why I made Andrew Wilson look like Wesker in that video, or whatever. Because I was studying the comments, or whatever, and people were
the comments were making me think somebody's been watching your channel, because I'm dude, nobody in this community really talks about Resident Evil except for me a little bit, and you a lot. So it's I don't know where the fuck. Hello, Jamaica youth, whoever you be.
Well, yeah, but to shut up real quick. The comments are definitely the place to go if you want to get an understanding. If they're real people, the comments are very enlightening on the general idea of where, and I hate to say it, it seems like there were a lot of people calling out his transhumanist thing, and there was a lot of people calling out Andrew for his stance and how he was doing things, but a majority of the people didn't really seem all that bothered by the Zoltan dudes. They basically just made jokes about it. Everyone, I would say probably over 100 comments was just about people picking on Resident Evil and calling him Albert Wesker and calling the other dude an Umbrella scientist. Oh, he really works for Umbrella. They just brought him on here to, make a fake interview. So, but go ahead. Sorry. I just want to say that, a lot of people obviously are not buying up the conversation. People seem to think it's fake. It does seem fake to me. The dude's literally named fucking Zoltan. Are you fucking? Oh, and and everybody was joking about dudes wearing my car. So, again, if you want to see the subliminal messaging in it, it's kind of, come on, how convenient. It's a dude named fucking Zoltan talking about transhumanism. Just saying. Go ahead.
Is that a reference to in a movie?
Yeah, the movie dude, where my car or whatever with fucking what's his name, Ashton Kutcher and fucking Stifler dude. And in that movie, it's an alien race, whatever, that comes to help save humanity, and they all do this hand sign with their hands in the form of a Z, and they go Zoltan, and they're a bunch of awkward looking, Spock looking gay homosexual characters. So, you know,
Weird.
Anyway.
That's funny.
Come death and biological aging. It's not just really we don't want to die. It's actually we want to remain as younger people, and we will be able to reverse aging at some point. They've had plenty of studies that they've been able to do that in mice and things like that. So, but that said, it's also a social movement. It's this idea that we can become superhumans. We can go off planet. We don't have to be, susceptible to breathing air, to choking on food, or to in being too cold or too hot. Eventually, we can overcome these things.
How the fuck are you a superhuman? Because you could go to Mars and you have to be on a life support system the entire time you're there because it doesn't have a fucking atmosphere or fucking magnetosphere and shit. So you're gonna fucking, what are you gonna grow on Mars? What the fuck are you gonna do there? You know, it's gonna be infinite boredom. You know, so I don't know. So most of the things he's mentioned, it doesn't seem like they're going to be a net benefit to human life at all.
Upgrade ourselves to become cyborgs and things of that nature. Now, some people say that this makes us not human, and we can discuss that and debate that. But the question is really not whether we remain human. It's really whether that is the natural course of action for.
Look at this. He said he wants to A, improve human life, and B, it doesn't matter if we're human. It doesn't matter if we remain human.
That this makes us not human, and we can discuss that and debate that. But the question is really not whether we remain human. It's really whether that is the natural course of action.
What? Obviously, the natural course of action would be to remain human, sir. Like what? How could there be a different natural course of action? Right? And if it's a natural course of action for us to become non-human, right, or beyond human, right, then where is that exactly described or proscribed? I mean, is just really confusing, right? Other than, yeah.
It's starting to sound like Palpatine using, dark Sith clone technology. Dark side may be considered to some to be unnatural, and they kind of sell it as natural. If you put on this exoskeleton suit, like you said, old people can traverse, Mount Everest. But in reality, like, how many old people do you know of really, like, obviously those things would be used for military applications and not for fucking, grandpa and grandma, to go on their last final hike as they die of a heart attack. Is that exoskeleton going to save them from cardiac arrest? I mean, again, they like sell you one or two flashy ideas, but in reality, like, those ideas obviously make no fucking sense. Like old people traversing, like, how are you going to stop the aging process of the heart and the arteries and the natural aging processes? They make it sound like it's so easy to do. Like, you can just go in and edit simple DNA sequences and replace it, like, in I Am Legend, where, how many cancer patients did you heal? 10,001. Yeah, until they turned into a bunch of dark seekers and they fed on everybody. So, I'm just saying, like, who and what normal, rational, natural mind would anyone hear what this dude, like, when I was first hearing it, when I watched it earlier, and sit here and even begin to take some of that shit seriously, like what you're saying about with Mars. Come on. What y'all gonna take a bunch of seeds up there and throw up a little airtight tent and use, what? Yeah, like, it's just it's so repulsively retarded that, in all honesty, you have to be a fool to believe it. But yeah, sorry, go.
All right. That sounds like schizophrenia to me.
For the human species, who has a very rational brain and this affinity to evolve. And now we've sort of taken evolution into our own hands. And I'm very excited about that. I've spoken all around the world, about that, World Bank, World Economic Forum. I've met presidents. I advise heads of state, whatever it is. I've been doing it now for
Strange. Oh, sorry.
What happened? What happened?
I don't know. I thought he paused the video because my mic was live for a second.
Oh, whoops! I was muted. Yep. Yeah. No, I'm saying that this dude worked at the World Economic Forum, and then he's also like fucking I mean, he also worked for National Geographic. Like this dude.
He worked for the Economic Forum.
I mean, he spoke at the World Economic Forum. I'm sorry. He didn't
I don't find that coincidental. Oh, I don't find that coincidental. I mean, I put that at the end of my video, or whatever. So that was just weird coincidences.
Yeah. So he's spoken at the World Economic Forum. He's worked for National Geographic, which is part of News Corp. Like the Fed linked, Zionist linked fucking channel. So this dude is fucking like he's a real piece of work. Honestly, he's strange.
A good solid 15 years. And I'm amazed myself at how fast the movement is growing. I also understand, and that's why I'm here tonight, that Christian society finds this despicable in many ways, especially if you're a traditionalist. That said, there are some Christian transhumanists, and we can get into that as well. But the real question is there really a...
So this becomes a theme. Okay, so Andrew Wilson is going to tend to argue throughout the entirety of this debate, or at least the hour that I've seen, that Christianity and transhumanism are totally compatible. And what did the Zoltan Isvan guy just say? He said there are Christian transhumanists. So just keep that in mind during this. Okay, this whole idea of Christian transhumanism, which, by the way, Peter Thiel and others have extrapolated on this idea, right?
A problem between Christianity and transhumanism. And if you follow the Bible literally, there's certainly a major kind of chasm that we're going to have to find. Can we close that divide? Probably not, but we can discuss it. And that's why I'm here tonight. So I hope my introduction has introduced you to some of the ideas of transhumanism, as well as who I am, a journalist, gubernatorial candidate for governor in California as a Democrat, as well as someone who's been writing and speaking on the movement now for well over a decade.
Okay, Andrew, 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've actually listened to quite a bit of your stuff in preparation for this debate. So you are consistent, if nothing else, about your view, which I appreciate. So debating about transhumanism is somewhat difficult because it's never altogether clear what anybody is talking about when they debate it. Transhumanist ideology is usually baked into other systems which support it, rather than being a philosophy which stands out on its own. A sub-position, if you will, of a general...
So what is it a sub-position of? See, he's going to try to make it a sub-position of Christianity, of the Christian worldview. Right? Because he's going to argue that none of Zoltan Isvan's beliefs would be possible without a Christian framing. This is actually what he says. Right? So...
Right. Well, and it's like, okay, so, but it's like, by what definition are you defining Christianity? Is this from an Orthodox Christian position, or is this from a cultural Christian position? See, like, that's the real question, isn't it? It's like,
well, that's the thing, is that,
or from a Qbala Christian position, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. He gives lots of key markers that he's talking about cultural Christianity and not Orthodox Christianity. He, for example, employs words like Judeo-Christian, words like Abrahamic, right, as clues, right?
Greater position, focusing mostly on elongation of life and transcending the humanity of human beings and their biological limitations. I would like to give a short analogy about this by referencing it to a small Midwestern town called Raccoon City. In Raccoon City, a private corporation released a virus which altered the genes of victims.
Shit.
So he also mentions Terminator, so it gets weird.
victims entered into a state of what could only be referred to as zombification, including many of the animals. The nature of this virus was such that the wounds of the victims did not cause death. They no longer aged, they no longer felt pain, and they stayed in this state perhaps indefinitely. Immortality, in other words. And they no longer worried about the higher purposes, instead reverting to primary functions. Some of them actually evolved past this zombie-like state and into other types of what could only be considered human hybrids. Their strength increased drastically, wounds healing instantly, their physical abilities improved to something far beyond that of a normal human being. The company who released this virus and its sponsors claimed it was, quote, the next step in human evolution. That to stand against it was to stand against progress itself. While the events here are, of course, fictional, the point stands. That is a transhumanist future. What is the problem with it, ultimately? If we had a zombie apocalypse and everybody turned into the, quote, undead, isn't this immortality? My opponent's starting axiom is just that, immortality itself, for the sake of being immortal. He doesn't really tell us the reasoning behind the grounding of this axiom or its ultimate purpose, only that he fears death. And therefore, this axiom has become his primary edict. I share some of the frustrations that Zoltan has.
Yeah, but this is the issue with what Wilson is saying, is that is Wilson going to oppose medical science and pharmacogenomics and all of those innovations of modern science? Of course
you said it before me. I was about, you can't complain about what Umbrella was doing and not complain about the company itself.
Yeah, no, he's for that. He thinks that is all about Western progress, right? So he thinks that supports Western. The West is winning because of scientific progress of medical research. He says it all the time during this entire thing. He has no problem with even life extension or immortality, right? As long as it's within a Christian context, I mean, which means nothing.
That's right. Like they say about Umbrella in the movies, your business, I mean, Jesus, your life is our business itself.
Yeah. So let's see during the course of this debate if Wilson is going to reject medical science and the innovations like pharmacogenomics in lieu of, that these, experiments could go haywire and cause something like zombie apocalypse.
I fully understand that Christianity can be weaponized against scientific progression in society, sometimes for good and sometimes for not so good of purposes. So that Zoltan understands.
Did you hear that? He, on the other hand, understands that Christianity can be weaponized against scientific and technological progress.
Not against scientific progression in society, though I do think it needs to be done responsibly. And I am certainly in favor of life-extending technologies and life-saving.
There we go. So he's for life-extending technologies. He thinks we should continue medical research. He supports corporations like Umbrella. Oh, well, what if, things go wrong? He doesn't support it when it goes wrong. Well, no shit. Nobody does. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? So you only don't support technology when everything goes wrong with technology? What?
So what I think you will see is two things. Like if I were debating them, the two words I would write down right here is, well, three. I would write down free will, one, choice, two, and I would write down responsibility, because he's hinging his entire argument on, well, if we can do it responsibly and if we have a choice to do it, right? So are those two prerequisites for his argument in existence, right? And, I don't think he's really wanting to get into that. So it's kind of weird that Andrew leaves himself open to those two, like, points of attack, right? But then when you try to point those things out to him, well, he was a lot less polite to you for some reason. So,
well, he's gonna come and say this stuff now. He's gonna say, well, it's our responsibility because we control it. The technology will only do what we tell it to do, so on and so forth. So this is what he's going to try to say next.
Technologies. An engineer by trade.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's totally bullshit. Though.
Right.
He already admitted that you can lose control of it. So it's like
Right. Exactly.
it's
Right.
like,
That's right.
And we have lost control of it. I mean, it's kind of weird, but okay.
Scientific progression in society, though I do think it needs to be done responsibly. And I am certainly in favor of life extending technologies and life saving technologies. An engineer by trade, though not degree, I have a love of technology myself, especially machinery. Let us take firearms, for instance, as an example here. If my axiom was just firearms, it wouldn't make much sense, would it? A firearm is just a simple machine. It doesn't need to ever be used to kill, but that is its primary function. My worldview allows for defensive killing in defense of yourself and for others. So the axiom isn't ever firearm.
See, look, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. The contention that the firearm doesn't need to be used to kill. Oh, it just so happens that it is in mass quantities. And the minute they started inventing guns, people started shooting each other left and right. You know, yeah, that's just a coincidence. That's just human nature that caused all that. You know, it is like, it's just fucking incredible sometimes, right? Like, yes, of course, guns allow people to kill people easier. Like, it's the dumbest shit of all time, and that's why you need guns, because other people have them now. Like, that's literally why everybody needs them. All right, so it's like crazy to argue otherwise.
Itself, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It's defense against the aggression of evil. That is good. That would be the axiom we'd be working with there. And firearms themselves are neither good nor evil, just technology which can be used for good or evil, which is where we get into the worldview justification and how it is that inside of Zoltan's worldview of transhumanism, things will get, quote, better than.
So he's for life extension technologies, right? And just like the transhumanist, he believes we are controlling the direction of technology, right? That it's used to benefit humans, right? So he basically believes everything that a transhumanist actually believes. I just want to point that out.
So what is the debate then?
Right.
So
what is he debating? It. He supports technological progress. He just doesn't want it to destroy humans. Well, the guy literally just looks at him straight in the eye and says, "Neither do I." It's a total bullshit debate.
Well, but he also says that he doesn't care if humans continue to exist, essentially. So it's like,
right.
So it's like, well, I don't care if they exist, but it would be bad if we don't exist. It's like, okay, so
right, it's schizophrenic.
And that of a society which uses Christian ethics as a guiding stone in the United States. I would argue immediately, of course, transgender ideology goes hand in hand with transhumanist ideology, a technology designed to remove biological sexual limitations in order to progress towards transcending your base human limitations. It is definitely, or has
Look at Andrew having to read his notes. Look at him got to read his notes off the side of the screen.
Yeah, his intro is written by ChatGPT. It's crazy.
Zoltan. And that's really the problem, ultimately, with this ideology, from my view. The very idea here is to transcend humanity itself, but only through appealing to base human desires, which is humanity. You're appealing to the same thing you're trying to transcend. Zoltan seems to understand some of his ethical system, or some other ethical system, is needed to complement his axiom of immortality, as he is a big believer in spiritualism. But this is a vague concept and ultimately meaningless. What he's saying is he's trying to make some kind of appeal to human motivation for purpose, or telos. And if they find purpose through some kind of spiritual revelation, well, good for them. Christianity offers for society something much better. The idea of virtues, compassion, love, confined ethics for the purpose of fully experiencing our humanity and embracing it with our purpose, or telos, rather than rejecting it and attempting, I would say in futility, to transcend it. Science and technology, he says he wants them to improve the world. So do I. But that doesn't give us an ethical standard for how that should be done, how that should be accomplished, why we should even be moving towards that. There's no grounded axiom here. It's just a preference that he has.
So you see that he says that Christian ethics provides a framework for why we should use science and technology to improve the world. Right. So his only contention with the other guy is that his framework does not provide a ethical basis for why you should support changing the world with science and technology. Right. But so again, he says Christian ethics provides that framework.
Science and technology, he says he wants them to improve the world. So do I. But that doesn't give us an ethical standard for how that should be done, how that should be accomplished, why we should even be moving towards that. There's no grounded axiom here. It's just a preference that he has. When he says, transhumanism, as it applies, he gives his definition. I have no problem with his definition. I think it's fine. The idea that we're trying to elongate, humanity to the point where, we could even reverse our own aging process and move towards
right. He thinks that's fine. Right.
Mortality. He defines this by saying science and technology which will wildly improve
from a Christian point would not be ethical nor supported by a Bible believer in any way. Starring Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, this dude literally supports the Antichrist beast system.
Well, and again, it's like for me, it's like, okay, I'm open to the argument. Okay, there's some sort of argument within Christianity that says like there's no problem with life extension or something like that. Like,
right? Where is it?
But yeah, and it's like, well, does how we go about this is why I was trying to get across to Avian on the last stream, which was wasn't really fitting, but here it fits. It's like, okay, so like if we have to use aborted fetal cells of like 1 million children to develop this cancer / life extension, let's call it vaccine, right? And we give that to everybody in the world, and that allows everybody to live 45% longer than they would have otherwise. So instead of living to 80 comfortably, you live to like 130 or 140 or whatever, right? Let's just say, for instance, right? Okay. So now that's a possibility or whatever, right? Or whatever. Let's just throw a number around, okay? Did all those omelets you have to crack? I know that's a really bad. All those eggs you have to crack to make the omelet, does that have any bearing whatsoever on how Christians should view it? Right? See what I mean? Like that's kind of what they're avoiding. That's what the whole thing they're avoiding is like, well, what exactly is the cost going to be to get that? Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never in my life heard like, Christians should support life extension technologies. Like that sentence has never occurred to me, but here it is. Right? He's saying it like it's matter of fact, and maybe his supporters or, is this Jake guy. Are you gonna swallow this shit, dude? Like this is fucking weird, man. These people should really consider what he's actually proposing. Right?
I understand that too. He was in a war zone. He has fear of dying. I totally get that. Everybody has to contend with their own mortality at some point. He did say, though, in his opening, and I just wanted to address this very quickly, he says humans are living twice as long as they used to. It's actually not true. The truth is that we use live birth numbers in order to determine how long people live, and infant mortality used to be way higher. And because of that, what we did was we took an average, and so the life expectancy went down to like 30 or 40 because of how many infants used to die.
That's 6 minutes.
Now, I'm almost done. I'll just tie this off if you don't mind. So this is actually what he's doing here. He's not being particularly honest with this. In fact, if it is the case that you could, overcome infant mortality 300 years ago, you lived about as long as you do right now. That is, in fact, what is true. So no, we're not really living much longer. In fact, infant mortality in the West is going up due to the aging population of women who are having children now. So it's one of the, in fact, in the West, in the first world nation, right? This is really one of the only nations in which infant mortality is increasing rather than decreasing. So And then I'll just tie this off with this last thing very quickly. He says Christianity finds this despicable. They do, but they do for precise moral reasons. They don't find it despicable because you're looking at saving, leukemia treatments, right? So, yeah, with that, I'm willing to dive right into the debate.
All right, you guys have open dialogue now, as long as you pretty much want at least 6.
In fact, in the West, in the first world nation, right, this is really one of the only nations in which infant mortality is increasing rather than decreasing. So, and then I'll just tie this off with this last thing very quickly. He says Christianity finds this despicable. They do, but they do for precise moral reasons. They don't find it despicable because you're looking at saving, leukemia treatments, right? So, yeah, with that, I'm willing to dive right into the debate.
All right, you guys have open dialogue now, as long as you pretty much want at least 60 minutes, maybe can go towards 90. So with that, let's get into it.
Nano banana, nano banana, nano banana. Oh, nan banana, nana. Here's the real.
Wow.
All right. Well. Wait. Do your thing, Lord. What is that?
Yeah.
Nano
I
banana.
don't. What?
Well, I wanted to start.
You talking about like a turkey call?
No, you do that. What do you do? You know me?
Oh, you mean when I be like interrupting people? You talking about?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it pisses people off.
I want to get you on a debate with Andrew Wilson, and you just for that one reason, just do that to him when he's in the middle of an argument. Just make him spiral. That'd be hilarious.
I don't think he needs my help to spiral.
Yeah, we got nano banana bombed. So yeah, we gotta have to recover from that.
By just maybe we can dive into this. The humans living twice as long. That is not a factually accurate statement, right? What happened is we used to use infant deaths, and then that would bring the average down for people. But if you got past like the age of 6, you did live to about the same age that you do now, between 60 and 80.
I'm just not even going to argue with this. Look, people used to die from cavities all the time, but this doesn't really get into the crux of what I think is interesting in this debate for you and I. What's interesting in this debate for you and I is like, really, why does Christianity not appreciate or like transhumanism? Because honestly, the statistics on why people live twice as long or whether they don't is really not important. I'm actually interested very much in why you actually would have a problem. Like you were talking about the zombies in your very beginning of your speech.
Hang on, if it's not important, then why did you bring it up?
I want to talk about.
That's what I'm curious about. Why did you bring it up? Because it's part of a sales pitch, right? Isn't it part of a sales pitch to say, look, people are living twice as long now, and that's due to scientific progression and this and that? So you brought this up as part of a sales pitch, and I do want to make sure that this gets corrected, and then we could dive into the other ethical concerns. It's like, no, this is not, in fact, true. Scientific progression. In fact, I would argue that in many ways, humans are living worse lives than they used to through diet, plastics, and many other things which science has brought us, which has not improved the human condition at all. So, but that aside, it is in fact the case that people are living now about as long as they always did if you remove infant mortality.
So did you see that? There's many ways that he just pointed out, like plastics and diet, where science has not collectively improved human lives. So he's just throwing that out there. But before he said that, Christians ought to support using science and technology to improve our lives. Right. So this is the thing is like, when, the risks are collectivized and the benefits are filtered to the top. Right, with most of, the risks, benefit analysis of, the use of these technologies, right? Why doesn't he continue to talk about the collective harms, right?
Well, look, I mean, there's a lot of people working in offices trying to solve the world's problems. They've been indoctrinated in school from the age of 5 to the age of probably 30. And now they went from sitting in chairs at a desk, and they now stand up and have like a miniature, what do you call it, a treadmill underneath their thing. So I mean, look, there are improvements coming to the average person who is building the system. So in 100 years, they'll eventually get us a hamster wheel in our little cage, and and they'll replenish our water for us and feed us in through the little tray under the door. And I mean.
You don't want to be a little hamster?
I just wanted to correct that, and then we can dive into,
rich people are living dramatically longer than anyone has ever lived, which is unfortunate because it skews the facts for the normal people. But a billionaire who has access to all these different types of technologies, wow, I mean, they can outlive their predecessors by 30 to 40, 50%. And so that's like a known fact. But
but hang on. I want to dive into that now, that claim. Okay, because I've heard you make it before, so I went and I looked into it. You're not actually wrong, right? The wealthy do tend to live longer, but that's not just due to medical access, right? It's due to impulse control. This is what's hilarious, is like this is completely left out, right? The idea here is that people who are generally wealthy, they become wealthy because they have great impulse control, and people who don't have good impulse control, so they engage in very self-destructive behavior. That's often why the lower classes die at higher rates than the wealthy,
like cigarette smoking,
immediate access to medical care. That's not actually the case. So that's another thing that you say often that's just not accurate.
Andrew, let's dive into transhumanism. I'm really, this is an opportunity that's wonderful. Forget who's living longer, whatnot. I mean,
well, hold on. Like they barely brush this topic, but it's actually deplorable, right? Because you look at a lot of the research, like technology is causing people to get cancer and stuff, foods and shit, processed foods and all this type of stuff, all types of chemicals and shit, there's endocrine disruptors, right? In the pesticides and the cleaning material for the households and shit, so the thing is that, there's a lot more medical improvements, but it's like, like modern medicine hasn't really cured like one disease, right? So, there's a lot more like medical care, but there's also a lot more diseases now than before. And some of it's been caused by the modern lifestyle. So I don't think they really appropriately addressed any of that, honestly.
I want to know why Christians are not willing to, en masse, embrace transhumanism. And I think you had
because there's no ethical system behind it. So the idea here is like you come up. I know that you understand philosophy. I started.
So check this out. It's transhumanism doesn't have an ethical system, and he doesn't have a problem with transhumanism per se. He just thinks it needs an ethical system, which he already has one named Christianity. So he's trying to offer it to the transhumanists, right? So the question is he a Christian transhumanist? Because he's went so far as to say that the transhumanists need an ethical system, and Christianity fits perfectly with it. So
read your book. Forgive me, I wasn't able to read the entire thing before the debate. I didn't get very far in it, but I did order it. I thought that the premise was interesting. I do enjoy science fiction, so forgive me for that. But if you start with an unjustified axiom, in this case, it's just a preferential axiom. Human beings should be immortal. It doesn't tell us anything else. So you're going to have to attach that to another system, and that's what you're going to do. I don't know what that system's going to be exactly. Maybe some form of utilitarianism, or some bygone for you to. But that's why they have a problem with it, is because there's nothing attached to it. Why should we be immortal? Why? Can you give us the answer to that? Why?
So, you kind of took me or put words in my mouth saying that, look, because I'm afraid of dying, that was why I want to live forever. That's one aspect of it. And another aspect that was really that I love life, and that most transhumanists love life. They're curiosity addicts. They just want to see what happens. I mean, what a time to be alive right now with the age of AI and all these longevity treatments and things like this. I mean, this is an amazing experience. So that's a huge facet of why people don't want to die as well. So my love of life is a huge reason why I don't want to die. And let me just say that's, to answer your question, that's what starts to form the ethical framework of my version of transhumanism. Now, of course, transhumanism is wide, just like Christianity is. There's probably a lot of versions, a lot of ethical boundaries and ethical frameworks. But mine is because I love life enough to want to live indefinitely. And from that, you can kind of take a whole set of standards. And most transhumanists would agree that the scientific method is the best ethical framework to discovering that set of standards. Now,
scientific method is not an ethical framework.
I agree with you. It's totally not. But it provides a very sound board upon which to create this ethical framework that you're searching for.
No, it doesn't.
And oh, come on. The scientific method is perfect.
The scientific method is designed to give us
things.
No, it's designed to give us descriptors. It can't tell us what to do with any of this stuff, right? The idea, first of all, working as an engineer, robots specifically was what I worked on more than anything else. The idea of that we're in this massively sophisticated, almost Terminator level technology is absurd. We're not. Most robots you'll find in every type of plant you can think of, from automotive to food, regardless of where you are not particularly sophisticated. Many of them are still using 1970s, 1980 technology.
So look, so the other guy's saying that, look, he supports improving technology because he wants to improve life and that he loves life, right? Well, those two are not exactly in support of one another, because if you want to change what a human is, it doesn't necessarily follow that you want to exemplify humanity or want to improve humanity itself. If you're willing to just go beyond humanity and you don't care if humanity's gone in the process, right? And then with Wilson, it just so seems like what he's actually saying is he's offering the guy here. Actually, let me go back a little bit.
Robots specifically was what I worked on more than anything else.
Yeah. He's saying look, the fact that we're living in this world where technology is actually taking over and stuff is actually not true, right? So I don't understand. He's supposed to be arguing against transhumanism, right? But the thing he's saying is transhumanism is not really a problem, right? And what the guy's saying is that we should all just support transhumanism, right? So one guy's saying that transhumanism's it's going full steam ahead. Another guy's saying, I'll just work on robots and stuff, but I'm not really afraid of transhumanism, but I support improving technology and science and stuff, right? So this is the thing, is whether the system is headed towards transhumanism or not, he supports wherever the system is headed, right? So
the idea of that we're in this massively sophisticated, almost Terminator level technology is absurd. We're not. Most robots you'll find in every type of plant you can think of, from automotive to food.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew, I would have to disagree with you.
Particularly sophisticated. Many.
Right.
I'm just sorry, hearing him sit there and say that, knowing what I saw 3 years ago, it just makes me laugh. It's just the biggest fucking shekel parade known to mankind. Just LARP and get paid for it. Sorry, go ahead.
Of them are still using 1970s, 1980 technology with photo eyes and pusher arms. That's actually the type of technology that you're dealing with. There are some elite companies which have designed some sophisticated Johnny Five-like robots. That's true, right? But we're not nearly as progressed as people would have you believe on that front. The reason I'm tying this in and kind of explaining this and expressing this is because when you say that the scientific method can itself be a starting position for some ethical framework. It can't. It's not even designed to do that. It's designed for you to make an observation, and based on the observation, come up with a hypothesis and test it for a descriptive truth, a material truth. It does not give you moral oughts and can't. And so neither can your starting axiom of immortality. When you say why, you just give me a preference. So why? What are you grounding this in?
Well, I already told you, it's my love of life as well as my fear of death. Those are the two things that are kind of pushing me forward. And it's not that scientific method is this kind of like framework. From the point of that, I love my life and I'm afraid of dying. Therefore, I use the scientific method to discover how to protect that. And this comes across in the 3 laws of transhumanism. Again, just so your listeners know, this is the novel that he was talking about, The Transhumanist Wager. Let me put in a little a book promo there. And this starts off with the 3 laws of transhumanism, which really say you're trying to acquire power to protect your life because you love it and you don't want to die. And the scientific method just provides all the different, ideas, philosophical nuances, and rules, laws that you might follow in order to best fulfill that idea that you don't want to die because you love it.
The scientific method does not provide for philosophical nothing. That is not what its job is. Its job is to only explore material claims. That's it. And to test those material claims against descriptive reality.
But you use those material claims to try to move forward.
Hang on, I didn't say anything while you were going. Just give me a second to respond, right? You can use those pieces of evidence, I guess, to push forward some other types of material claims, like, well, 100 people are hungry, right? And here's the measurement for that. But what it can't tell you is why you ought to feed them. Do you see the distinction there? Yes, I can maybe empirically demonstrate for you that you need X amount of caloric intake in order for you to not feel hungry anymore. And I can scientifically demonstrate that. And that would be a claim which I can empirically then prove. But that doesn't tell us why we should feed those hungry people. That's the distinction. Why ought I do that? Why ought we do these things? And this is the problem with your entire grounding, is that it's axiomatically flawed because it just starts with a preference. I want to live forever. But that's nice. But why should we live forever?
Yeah, but you're kind of putting words in my mouth. And listen, obviously I want to live forever, not just because I love my life, but because I love people around me, including you guys, including family, including society. I mean, and I love the earth. I mean, there's a whole range of reasons that you want to live indefinitely and not die. And that's because life is great. So when you talk about family, you want to protect them. So that becomes kind of part of this whole intrinsic why I don't want to die or why I love life.
The gray area between hacker hunter.
What's really weird is that, like, Wilson's not really refuting the idea that, like, you want to live forever, right? Or like, why do you want to live forever? Right? He's not really asking him why he wants any of those things. Right? He's just saying that he has no axiomatic justification for why he believes any of it, right? So he could say, well, living forever and all those things and wanting to extend your life is just perfectly fine, right? As long as you have a correct justification for it, right? He's not asking him, well, how does exactly living forever improve your family, or or why would it improve your life, or why would it improve the earth? Right? If everybody just lives forever, we'd be putting more of a strain on the earth, right? So, I mean, he's not asking him any of these things, why any of these things should be desired, or why they would make your family or the earth better. I was just saying, well, you need a justification behind them, to which Zoltan is just laughing at. He's saying, no, we're just going to do these things. We don't need a justification for it, which is fair enough, right? Yeah, that's right. People are just going to do these things without any justification. So, you could keep asking them what justification they have. That doesn't matter to them. Right? It's retarded. Oh, whoops.
Have individualistic reasons for why it is that Zoltan, wants to live forever. I get that completely. But do you understand that that is not a prescriptive ought for why people ought to want to live forever, right? You're not giving us that part. You're giving us instead a baseline axiom that you came to through your own preferences, which does not tell us why we ought to follow it. It doesn't give us anything. And because of that, what you've done is you've destroyed the entire idea from the Christian perspective of teleology. Why should I be immortal, Zoltan? Why should I do that? And the idea from you is like, well, because you prefer it. It's like, that's it. That's the whole game, right?
But listen,
that statement didn't even make sense. From a Christian perspective, you've destroyed teleology. First of all, he's not a Christian. Second of all, he does have a telos or a purpose. It's to extend human life, right? So either he said he wants to improve life or improve the earth or one of those things. So instead of dealing with what his telos is, he's saying he's rejected the Christian telos? That doesn't even make any fucking sense. All right.
Every person that comes to transhumanism must make a choice, and the choice that I've made, which is they love life enough or they're afraid of dying enough to want to do something more. And let's be honest, the same thing happens in Christianity. To accept the grace of the Lord, everybody has to personally come to Jesus, beg for forgiveness, and be given the grace of God. It is a journey. We all make this journey individually, whether it's Christianity, whether it's transhumanism. So I think I feel like you're just kind of fuddling around with words and concepts, but not really actually coming down with how there's this huge distinction between Christianity and transhumanism. I think everyone feels like I do. Nobody wants to die. They have family they love the planet Earth, and if they can live longer,
So this is the third or fourth time he said it. He said there's actually no qualitative difference between Christianity and transhumanism, which is an interesting statement.
But also, he made an assumption. He said nobody wants to die. I actually think living forever on Earth is much worse than dying, to be honest. Like, imagine living forever. That means you're going to see tons of, empires collapse. You're going to see tons of beings die and stuff. I mean, 80 years or 60 years is enough for me, really. Like, I don't know what he means by that. Like really, like, live forever. That's fucking crazy.
Right. It's literally just a bold-faced assumption that living longer would improve life in any qualitative fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's actually a good genre of literature from the East where they show that being immortal is more of a curse. You know what I mean? They actually have that kind of genre from the East. I can actually give you one story they wrote where living forever is more of a curse than it is a blessing.
want to do that.
But I am expressing the distinction. The distinction is telos, teleology. Christianity grounds its entire moral, ethical, and human system in God. That's what we do, right? We ground from our worldview. We're grounding everything in God. It's not about us. It's not about what we want. It's not about what our preferences are. It comes down to our grounding foundation being principled in God and God's commandments to us. You have the opposite, right? You literally are following an oppositional system to this, whereas you are saying everything that I have a preference for. Instead, I am God. I am the person who is the ultimate arbiter. I am the person who ultimately gets to be the decision maker, the decider. I am the person who gets to guide everybody's life or my own life, this type of thing. Now, hang on.
Andrew,
before you say
you've nailed it. No. This is great. You finally got it. This is exactly right in what you just said. And I appreciate you taking it because now you've taken us to that next level. Listen, you are right. Transhumanism is a selfish son of a bitch philosophy. Whereas Christianity is really this framework that God already existed. Transhumanism, we're out in the open. I was thinking about this. I was driving today. What was I going to tell you? I'll tell you the truth, man. I'm lost. I am so lost. I've asked for God in my heart. I've asked for all sorts of things. I studied religion when I was in undergrad and graduate school. But the reason I'm lost is also the reason that
this is where it gets highly performative, right? This is where, like, Christianity and transhumanism, like this is where he starts upselling Christianity as a solution to transhumanist spiritual malaise, right? So it gets very it takes a dark turn from here.
I have discovered transhumanism. It is the philosophy that has kept me comfortable, happy, and able to be the curious entity that I am, to
Gave
reach
you
out
purpose,
and try
right?
to do things.
Gave you purpose.
Yeah, no, it gave me purpose.
But do you
you're
see?
right, 100%.
Do you see now, like the idea here for Telos, purpose? That is what Christianity gives that you can't give. And this is the problem.
No, I have purpose too. I love transhumanism.
I know you.
Gives me
I know
plenty
you
of
do.
purpose.
You have a preferential purpose, but at the same time, you say you have purpose. Man, I'm lost. Man, I'm lost. The thing is, it's funny. Hang on. The thing is funny here. Ultimately, this reminds me. There was an old Justice League episode, right? An old cartoon, Justice League, right, with Superman, where they make the cyborg, and the cyborg can live forever. And he accumulates all this knowledge, and he decides he's going to destroy everybody on planet Earth. And he's arguing with Lex Luthor, the villain, right? And the cyborg says,
"Whoa, dude! Resident Evil and the Justice League. Like, man, this guy really did his homework today. Like, ooh,
Boy, it sounds like he's pulling LARPs out of his ass.
Yeah, he's cooking with hot. He's cooking with hot gas. Right? Seemed like using such lofty examples as cartoons and magazines and television shows. And
it's funny you mentioned Resident Evil because I think they announced Resident Evil 9 yesterday with Leon. Leon is coming back. So.
Oh, isn't it just a little bit convenient? He's returning to Raccoon City. Oh.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Is my audio better or worse?
Yeah, I hear you.
Is it good audio? Okay, cool. I just want to check if my audio is good because I'm trying a different setup now. All right. Yeah, I mean, like I get the whole and just to add to what you're saying, I think it's like I get the idea of like having analogies, but it's like spinning their wheels. Like ultimately, their analogies aren't going anywhere. It's like they bring up an analogy in media and then it doesn't get fleshed out. They just move on to the next thing. So they actually don't get anywhere with it. To be honest with you, like I'm tuning these guys out because they're like they're not really saying anything ultimately. Like as far as I can tell, like they're basically saying a bunch of nothing,
It's the exact same thing you just said to me, to Lex Luthor. He says, I'm lost. I don't know. I have infinite power and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it. I'm completely lost. I'm wayward. What am I supposed to do here? Right? He was just
but look at that
confused as you
smile
are.
that Zoltan gave, though. He gave that nice little smile when he said that. That wasn't coincidental. Even I've been talking about that new Superman movie here recently and the messages behind it. Like, these people know what the fuck they're doing. They're not dumb.
Yeah. Also, I want to say something. I actually do agree with one thing Andrew Wilson said, but he could have argued it better, is that the transhumanist doesn't really have a true higher purpose, but the Christian does have a higher purpose because, transhumanists see everything in material terms. Most of them, they're materialist or they don't see the mind or any deeper meaning to reality. So, most of them are like, atheistic or like they don't really like have any deeper soteriology or anything like that. Soteriology. Am I pronouncing that right? Or well, their soteriology is probably materialistic in some sense, but it's more like, I don't know, just pure carnal stuff in some sense. Like what I mean, like just material preservation. That's not really yeah.
Yeah, it seems like their soteriological framework has a lot to do with like I think like in transhumanism, like soteriology and like eschatology are kind of mixed because it's like salvation is in the future with technology. So it's like it's weird. Like what's gonna save humanity is technology. And like if we're not in control of the technology, then it's guiding us. So like and for his transhumanism, the technology has to improve humanity. But as he pointed out, many different systems of transhumanism, the technology doesn't have to be pro nature or humanity, right? It could just go on its own and just improve itself, and and destroy humanity or destroy nature in the process.
Yeah, I just wanted to play a short commercial break to see if you guys want to go vegan. So,
shorts, Instagram, etc. You've got Michelle from China over here. So your diet, what's your diet been like last 5 years or whatever? So what do you eat? What would you advise people, girls especially, to have slim? Because this is a money maker torso right here. These LL lines. Okay, that's all you need. You don't need to be shredded and look like this as a girl. That's probably not a good look. But just a slim, fit looking fit. That's all you need. It's very easy to get. So your diet, please. What don't you eat? What do you focus on eating?
I focus on rice, noodles, pasta, gnocchi, bread, beans, veggies, potatoes. That's what I focus on. I don't focus on the protein. This is a vegan diet, plant-based, and it's low fat. It doesn't have the beef. It doesn't have the cheese.
Just leaf, no beef.
Yes, just leaf, no beef.
No cheese, no please.
Lots of rice.
Yeah. What do you add to your rice?
What do I add to my rice?
You add sugar to your rice?
Sometimes, yeah. Sugar. I really like tomato sauce. And tomato sauce, usually add some sugar to that.
Yeah.
Add some extra. I add soy sauce. I add some nutritional yeast. I add bean sprouts.
Okay.
Wow.
The vegan commercial over.
Wow. Wow.
I introduce you to Jesus Christ as potentially being your Lord and Savior for this purpose, right? For telos. And that's the idea of purpose, Zoltan. That's why
I
America
appreciate
needs
that.
Christianity.
I thought you would introduce me. But I think that the reality is that I have searched, I have asked for God in my heart in all these things. I was raised a Catholic. So, I mean, I was been around this forever, but it hasn't happened. So for me, who doesn't want to die because I love life and because I'm scared of dying, I found transhumanism as the best philosophy that I could find to get me off this planet into the stars and trying brand new things, creating artificial intelligence, maybe going back to your zombie things where we become different hybrid animals. That's all great. The Star Wars era, the Star Trek era, this is what transhumanism is about. And yes, it doesn't have this teleological foundation that you create, that you say you have with God, which is great. You have it, but transhumanists don't. So we have to create that. And I don't think it lessens the purpose in any way. I think purpose is something that we feel inside. But I think
it's interesting you bring up like Star Trek and Star Wars, right? Both science fiction, where you conquered all sorts of human conditionals, and yet the entirety of these sagas are conflict-oriented and conflict-based around worldviews and ideology. In Star Wars, between the Jedi and the Sith, both religions, by
Neurojack, I think you were right,
did not surmount them in Lucas's mind when he looked to the future. The same exact thing in Star Trek, where the first thing you did was have a federation of communists, right? And all that happened is that now your enemies became entire other planets rather than just your enemies on your own planet. Interesting.
Are they reading a fucking script? I think they're.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, it sounds way too scripted.
Like this.
How
they're reading off a fucking teleprompter, dude.
Like how they're like going through like different like science fiction genres. It's really weird, dude.
Yeah, like this, this is like I just saw like they're smiling.
Yeah, they can't hide it, dude. You can see where like in their mannerisms and their eyes and the creases of their mouths, they're doing everything they can to constantly hide a smile.
Well, but I can see he's reading like.
Oh yeah, well of course. The way he looks around, the way that Andrew and certain other people, when they look around and they don't make constant direct eye contact with the camera in front of them, they're reading from shit.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure they have like an AI assistant. Like I'm not shitting you. Like I think that they have like an AI assistant that's bringing up suggestions of like they're either like sharing like an AI assistant script or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna like say that for sure, but I definitely am starting to get this
allegedly.
Sense, like, allegedly. Like this, like I'm starting to see that they're not saying whatever's coming to their mind, and it's not even like a memo. Like they have like a memo of talking points. Like the way Andrew Wilson said that, I'm pretty sure he's reading a teleprompter. Like it sounded exactly like a teleprompter.
And on top of that, the fact that he's brought up Raccoon City, Star Trek, and Star Wars, which all three is something that I have recently been making stuff about. So that, yeah, that's a little.
Well, and here's the thing is like, look, I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail, but like, if you really understand how important Lucasfilms and like Francis Ford Coppola and like San Francisco and all that is, like there. Let's just put it this way, like it's such a fundamental psyop, like cultural thing that they're running, and it's not straightforward. Like when he said, like when he brought up, like, oh, I want to go to the stars and I want to do like. That's like some sort of weird like Gnostic or something. Like it's not about physically leaving the earth, I don't think. I think it's like a go into the pods and get on fucking VR or something. Like this is like some sort of weird, code word for like quote unquote transhumanism, but really it's like, go in the pod and put on VR goggles and you're gonna go to the stars or something. Some weird shit, man. Like this is not like they're not actually talking about getting in a fucking.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I believe in. I think with as advance of what they can do, I think in reality, it's a lot more natural, and that's basically it. Like they're LARPing that we can do this, like go to the moon, we can go to Mars, we can, transfer your consciousness into a computer. But in reality, like you just said, like we're still attached to fucking wires, like a neurojack into the Matrix. So that's what it does seem like to me. Just get in your pods and, fap away to your artificial, your virtual reality pornography.
But that's why they're not really talking about the parallels between science fiction and reality, right? Like I'm actually curious to see what Andrew Wilson's about to say, but like what all I could see is him reading a teleprompter, and then he's like, and the other guy's laughing because he's already anticipating. He already knows what's about to be said because he has the same fucking shit on his screen. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like he's already read ahead. Like it's like really weird. And Jake's not even there. He's like texting somebody on the phone, like not even paying attention because he doesn't need to moderate shit.
Probably doesn't even care.
Yeah, they kept trolling like the Jake guy in the chat, like asking for his grinder and stuff.
Really interesting. Well, what's really interesting is that so this guy Jake, right? This guy has 1 million followers on YouTube, allegedly. In one day, they only had 13 or 14,000 views on this video. How is that? Like that's not even 1%, right, of 1 million. So it's like, I mean, I don't think, right? Wait, maybe that.
Well, remember these people who have money. If I can pay just a few $100s and reach 1 million people within a few months, imagine what they can pay if they're dropping a $500, 800 shekels or 1,000 shekels to promote their videos. I mean, again, yeah, it comes back down to how much of them views are legit too. Because, like I said, when it comes to the comments on there. I mean, it's very hard to tell who's really a person in these comments with how not just dumb people seem, but like us too. They see it as a joke. They don't see it as real.
Yeah, I've started realizing that more and more. I'm like looking at the different things that I consume right on the internet, and I'm extremely paranoid about that as well. But like I've started to realize that a lot of the things that I just kind of said, well, this couldn't really be fake comments or this. It doesn't make sense that this would be botted up with like people having some sort of fake conversation. Like I'm starting to believe that actually, like it's actually extremely possible and extremely likely that either one of two things is happening: that we're not allowed to see all the actual comments, and we're only allowed to see like botted comments, depending on who we are, or there's just not that many people that are willing to comment actually watching these things, and that almost all the views and almost all the comments are botted up. So like, I don't know which one of those are, if there's like a third like hybrid option, but like I started to realize like almost all these different reviews you see for like products and all these different comments on YouTube channels, like it really is starting to seem that like probably like 30% or less are real people, I would say, something like that. Maybe 30% or less are like actually people interested in the topic and commenting. Not everywhere, not all subjects, but in like, especially in these circles when we're talking about this kind of stuff, like Like I'm getting extremely doubtful. Like for example, when Andrew Wilson has 8,000 people supposedly watching his stream or whatever, like I personally have a very difficult time believing that those are like actual numbers. But I'm not saying it's all fake, but pretty sure that there's not like 8,000 people watching live. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Enough, when we start to explore the human condition of what happens when we advance technology to its zenith, and we can now go and explore with other species, what we find very quickly in our own thought exercises manifested through our own Hollywood executives is that we're going to blow each other up. We're going to find photon torpedoes. We're going to do all sorts of in other words, the horribleness of the human condition does not go away with technology. And immortality also would not solve this, Zoltan. Like, there's a lot of implications with immortality, which are way more frightening than death. For instance, what if you're immortal? Let's say that we had little nano machines that I could put in your body that instantly they keep you not only aged, right, properly, but they also, are able to synthesize some type of product which they inject into you, which takes care of almost all of your material needs, your water, your health, things like this. Now, of course, this is technology we're very, very far away from if we ever get to it. But it would perpetually keep you alive forever. And let's say you pissed me off one day. So what I did was I took a 55-gallon drum and I stuffed you into it, and then I sealed the top and welded it and buried you 500 feet into the ground. Does that sound like a condition that you would want, or would you prefer death then? Would you prefer death or over the idea that you would be sealed in a 55-gallon drum and buried 500 feet down for eternity, essentially?
No, many transhumanists would say like some type of slavery as you're describing, or eternal pain, is definitely worth non-existence. But I want to go back to purpose, because what you said was really, really interesting. You have an innate purpose because God already
Did he
exists,
just basically say that he was okay with being in the drum? That is what I heard, right? Basically.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, yeah, but it's also kind of like just a one-word answer to like his question or whatever, right? Which is kind of weird. But like, see, granted that, why did Andrew Wilson say in his intro that he actually supports life extension technology? If he's saying now it can be, potentially abused in this, grave way. I'm just really like wondering, like,
do not. They have to create their purpose. And I would argue that creating your purpose in the end makes purpose more justifiable, more grandiose, better than the purpose that you have, because God already existed. I like the idea of being an inventor and creating my own purpose.
Yeah, that's great. But do you realize how this is actually self-refuting? If it really just comes down to the idea of sex of the population having a preference to do X thing, in this case, your preference is that you follow transhumanist ideology because you want to live forever, or upload your mind into a data machine, or whatever it is that you want to do.
He's definitely reading a script. Like, there's no fucking doubt in my mind that he's reading directly from like he's like, if you listen to how he's talking, like he's literally just reading like something on the screen. I hate to say that, but like I really think if you watch the way he's moving and the way he's talking, it looks like he's reading.
Yeah, it seems like he definitely didn't talk this way when I debated him, for sure. Right, like it was more like direct, like it was tit for tat, like engagement, like it was literally like word for word challenges. Like it didn't go for like a whole sentence, like, and then like do a whole spiel,
because they're basically talking past each other. They're not even really like engaging.
Oh,
right.
I could be wrong, because like honestly, like I've tuned them out, because like every time they go back,
Yeah,
like
maybe
there's no back and forth. It seems like they're just
well,
talking.
I have this theory, like maybe he's just paid as a kind of publicity stunt for this guy in order to increase the, just to make his views popular. Zoltan, maybe they offered to pay him, and that's what happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, if he was on Piers Morgan and this guy was on, on National Geographic, then they might both be working for News Corp at this point. Honestly,
Fair enough. Yeah, and hey, Unseen, by the way, I just saw you're in here, so what's up, man?
Do the specifics, I don't think matter quite as much. But if that's the case, then don't.
Yeah, blessings, Unseen.
Don't you understand that I could make the same appeal, that I could just appeal to the preferences of the masses and say, well, you know what? We don't prefer transhumanism, so therefore the ideology is wrong. The ideology must be wrong if it's the case that all we're doing is using individualistic preferences in order to come to the ideology to begin with. If the entire starting axiom base is Zoltan's preference is that he lives forever, and everybody else's preference is that they do not.
Yeah, but it's not it can't be an individualistic ideology. If it's transhumanism, if it's trying to either accelerate human evolution or improve humanity as a whole, then it's collectivism, right? So there's nothing individualistic about it, right? So I don't know why he's getting hung up on, oh, this is some sort of individualistic creed. Doesn't sound individualistic whatsoever.
No, it's humanity is to become a utopian one world system, you know, like you're right. What do you think that is? It's just like kind of I don't know, like overtly stuck. I don't know, something. On the autistic take.
Right, like his brand of transhumanism is like retarded, because he's like, oh, I'm gonna use transhumanism to improve my own life. But how exactly would that work? You're not gonna have the same access to technologies as he previously said that rich people do, and all this type of stuff. So, or the government does. So, you know.
So who is it exactly is the proponent of being an individualistic transhumanist or something?
This guy Zoltan Istvan. Yeah, Zoltan Istvan. He's created the Transhumanist Party. He's ran for president, and yeah, he supports immortality. His position here is that we should use the philosophy of transhumanism to support life extension technologies. So,
well, I think that, you know, I just read a quote about this. I'm going to find this quote. All right, you guys do your thing. It's on heart transplants.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? What makes your preference superior to their own? Can you tell me that?
Well, what worries me about
hang on. I want to be specific with this question. I want to be very specific because I want you to answer the question I'm asking instead of not answering the question I'm asking. If it comes down to the idea of Zoltan's preference versus everybody else's preference, they don't want to be transhumanist and you do. Why are they wrong? That's the question that I want an answer to. Why are they wrong and you're right?
Oh, God, we're definitely not wrong. I mean, listen.
It's an easy answer, Wilson. You fucking tard. It's because that's just an appeal to the masses. It doesn't answer any question on anything. Like, what do you mean? Why would it be wrong? It's pretty clear why it's wrong.
Listen, I come from a libertarian background, so I think everybody is going to be right in their individualistic idea. And I worry that Christianity is a totalitarian regime. I mean, that's really what happens with Christianity is nobody has any say in the matter. It's just been put here, and your purpose is whatever God says. We all live in a giant dictatorship. At least me, I say, honestly, I'm lost. I'm searching. I'm trying to do my best. But at least I have my freedoms.
Yeah, you know, this is really funny because you're right. We were able.
Right. So you want to tinker around, create new technologies that may or may not wipe out humanity, and he doesn't even care if humanity continues. Oh, but yeah, it's just all about himself. Like, what?
Yeah, and like, Christianity is the real problem that's enslaving humanity. You know what I mean? It's just, it's stupid absurdism. And it's rooted in, like, hold on. But yeah, it's like rooted in this like just a demonic preless absurdist take, because it's like, oh yeah, I want everything that goes against Christianity. I want to live forever. I want to be, half robot, half man.
That's right. Ye
But
shall be
what's
as
really
gods, but you
enslaving
can't be
man
gods if you're
is
dying.
Christianity.
Ain't that right, Unseen?
What?
I said, ye shall be as gods, but you can't be gods if you die.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that from their perspective, it's like not dying. But then, in Revelation, what does it say? It says men will pray for death and they won't be able to die. So that's like a living hell, man. That
sounds like
asking for.
transhumanism to me.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
Pull out of this actually what is going on, which is a rebellion to Christianity, which you believe is an oppression.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is, when I think about personal identity and what it means to live forever, it actually doesn't make sense in some ways because, 10 years ago, I had a very different, way of approaching things. 10 years before that, it was even more different. So it's like they want to sustain the configuration that they're presently in, yeah, but that's kind of like suffocating. Like if you have the same, I don't know, character or same, just the same way of viewing things for like, I don't know, for like thousands upon thousands of years, I think that will induce madness or something. You get what I'm trying to say? There's a kind of paradox here.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say here?
What's wrong? What's wrong? You don't want to be like Adam Sandler and have a big old gigantic spider come and help transcend the universe and take you on a spiritual journey through the cosmos? Come on, Hanus.
Yeah, but I want to
But he is
clarify
right about
one more
this.
thing. In Islam and Christianity, I think you have something like a spirit or soul, but the soul or spirit is not entirely definable based on what you are like presently, your present configuration. You get what I'm saying in the material sense. So I think the problem is like material permanency. It doesn't make sense, is what I'm trying to say. It's like a kind of demonic idea, but it also is self undermining. You see what I'm trying
Well,
to
I
say?
mean, the elites believe that they're going to be able to dodge God's judgment. Well, what's one way to do it? Never die. So I mean, these people are probably ignorant enough to believe that they can't be touched by God, and that's what I believe. I think these people are so hubristic in their ideals that they think that they can play God, and God's not going to knock the chair out from underneath them.
Well, he judges in this life is just the same. You know what I mean? It's not like there's we have to wait for judgment. In a lot of ways, man, people face judgment in this life. That doesn't mean that everything will be judged in this life, but it's to be sure that everything will be held accountable. Not an idle word's going to slip through. But in one way, he is correct, though, because he's like, there is this aspect of Christianity that is enslaving to some form of regime. Well, I think that is true when it comes to the communist Christians that are all over the internet. And, we can maybe say Andrew's associated with some way, so
Allegedly.
that is a valid critique, really, if you think about it. And this is coming from a Christian. So there you go.
My freedoms.
Yeah, this is really funny because you're right. We were able to pull out of this actually what is going on, which is a rebellion to Christianity, which you believe is an oppressive and authoritarian religion and an oppressive and authoritarian regime. Interestingly enough, the idea that we would march towards technocracy with I use this word tongue in cheek because I thought it was funny. I was listening to a debate that you had where the guy called you a technophile. I had never heard that word. I just thought it was kind of humorous, right?
It's from the manifesto. So it's interesting that they're laughing, yucking it up about a word that's in the manifesto. Very real word, by the way. Techies, technophiles. All right. This is the state of most of humanity that blindly support, technological progress. Right. So it's just fascinating that, being the state that most people are in, which is they're technological slaves, all right, that they don't realize that, they love their chains, right? So they're technophiles, right? But look at how all three of them are yucking it up at this term, and they don't even know where it's from. You're saying this is a funny term and all this stuff. So yeah, I just thought this was funny because, you know, we played the manifesto tons of times. We've read it, right? It's like paragraph 170 or something like that, or 180, or, you know, like somewhere around there where he actually says the term technophile. But yeah, they think it's funny because it's like, who doesn't love technology? Well, technology has its benefits and it has its harms, right? As they've continuously said, right? But the problem is that the harms are shared and the benefits are procured only for the people who are creating or have the ability to use or benefit from other people who work and use the technology, right? So this is the thing, is like, that they're not seeing.
But inside of the idea of a technocracy, you're definitely not immune from any sort of dictatorship or authoritarianism. In fact, it makes it easier. Facial recognition, CCTV cameras, which you find in a much more agnostic Britain rather than an English Britain or a Christian Britain. Remember, in Britain, right, under Christian ethics, when most of the country followed Christianity, it was far less oppressive than it is now when it's more agnostic. Right. And you have CCTV cameras everywhere. You're not allowed to own a gun. You're not allowed to do any of these things. Christianity is not the oppressing factor here. It appears to me that the agnostic technocrats who are following more the model of Zoltan Istvan are the.
So, see, it's a technical humanism that's supported by Christianity against an agnostic technocracy. Right. So he's framing the dialectic here of technocracy against technical humanism. Right.
Well, from his perspective, the Christianity that he's involved in, you're right, it does support the transhumanist experiment. And behind closed doors, you have patriarchs that are, great proponents of Darwin and evolution, and the whole root of this false idea of progress that creating a utopia on Earth, like. This is supported by the church structure that they're involved in, but at the same time, they act like they're against it. So
yeah, it's wild that what he says here. He says he supports, well, he said he supports life extension technologies. He said that, he said that technological progress is caused by Abrahamic and Judeo-Christian values. These are in his words.
Well, right, I think this goes back to a great letter that Father Seraphim Rose wrote to Thomas Merton, and the problem is the church becomes an institution strictly for humanistic causes, and it's like, oh well, we're waiting for Christ to establish His kingdom, but before that happens, we might as well build a utopia on Earth, heaven on Earth, and This is what happens when man forgets the whole purpose of the church, which is the salvation of souls, and he directs it to some idealistic, cause for that cause usually is like, something dealing with politics, or, something technological like the advancement of health or medicine. But that's not Christian charity. That's not really Christian charity, It's an obsession with efficiency that's rooted in a materialistic mindset.
Ones who are causing more of the problems of freedom than Christians. In fact, Christians here in the United States, we're focusing on that. What do they say? They want you to be able to own firearms. Zoltan Istvan, do you want people to be allowed to own firearms, whatever they want? Or are you going to restrict that freedom? And are you going to use your technocracy and your technocratic worldview to enforce that, utilizing these technologies?
It's the dumbest thing. Right? He's saying that technocracy is going to take our jobs and our guns, but the fact is that it's going to take way more than that. With the militarization of police, you'll lose the autonomy that you have for your communities when there's corporations that have security guards set up. As a police, in all the smart cities and all the stupid shit.
Right, AI judges. They're making movies now about this.
Oh, what's wrong? You don't want your biochip scanned every 2 blocks?
they have a movie that's coming out, and it's Chris Pratt in a chair, and there's an AI judge that's making him solve this murder that he's accused of, and it's like he's slowing down time and like, like reversing cameras, like, oh, see, I wasn't here when this murder happened. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, they're sort of rolling out the ideology in the manuscripts that are coming out of Hollywood, showing what they intend to set up. And what is the answer? What's the solution from these so-called Christians? Is infiltrate the institutions, but just set up a communist hierarchy in place of what, the capitalists or something. It's like they're caught in the dialectic, man. They don't even act.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous, man. It's crazy.
Hey, I want to say something. There's a lot that can go wrong with the brain. Especially when you're like, I don't know, like you get into contact with mercury or radiation. And there are a lot of brain disorders out there, like Capgras syndrome, or like, there are even crazy disorders. Like some people want to cut off their limbs. You believe that? And that's like actual brain disorder. There's a word for it. It's very rare though. Like they want to cut off their limb.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, let's say he did get what he wants, Zoltan. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, preserve the brain or cryogenically, or you like upload it to a digital space. Do you realize how much could go wrong? Like maybe it glitches, okay? And then you're like in internal hell then, or you want to die or something. Like, yeah, like these are like
But that's not
obvious
even the
questions.
person, because I believe the person is, the soul really of the man makes the man. It's not just the brain. This obsession with, like, rooted in this enlightenment materialism is the problem, because it disconnects body, soul, mind, all these things into different categories, and they ignore categories, right? Because of their scholasticism or whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, definitely. Like if Andrew could have argued from that angle, you know what I mean? If he were a sincere Christian, he would argue that the reducing of the spirit or the soul to the material is the problem, and he would argue from that direction rather than
right.
Right, because the soul, from the point of the atheist, is this is just a word they use that is symbolic. There is no such thing as a soul, really, or like this spirit. When they use the word spirit, there's different terms that they mean when they use these words, and in a lot of ways, I think that the problem is that because modern Orthodox Christians have a papist way of viewing the church as just merely an institution, they fall into the idealism of the Catholics that our goal is to create the same utopia, but just have a Christian in place in the same institution. So there is no real solution from his perspective, because in reality, they're working for the same cause, man.
Yeah, I think that happened with what is it called, Vatican 2.0. There were some Catholics that opposed Vatican 2.0, and after that, the Vatican kind of became more of a instrument for the industries and corporations and the growth of technique, stuff like that.
Yeah, the majority of Catholics you talk to, they completely reject Vatican II. They want to go back to prior to Vatican I, even. They want to be more traditional Catholics. But truthfully, truth be told, is the Catholics fell away from the faith that was handed down to them by the saints by 1054. From this time on, there has been occult teachings that have infiltrated subtly on the highest level within the Catholic Church, and they subverted doctrines, and then during the Aquinas time, there was this feeling that the atheist philosophers were one-upping them. So they felt like they had to sort of like, bow to the philosophers in a way, and Christian theology and patristics goes on the back burner, and you're pushing, these out of context Greek philosophers to the forefront. I don't know. It's just a very strange thing, and it's diluted really but you know, they don't like to admit it, but modern Orthodox are just papists. They're unionist. You know, this ecumenist, where they view the church in the same way, that you can't break with the hierarchy, just like the same way they say, the Roman Catholics say you can't break with the Pope. So now they become their own small versions of the papist. So, and the papist mindset is absolutely having this, you know, institution being the church, and for idealistic causes, you know. So.
Restrict that freedom? That's the question.
So listen, I think the price of freedom is that you need to have some of these errors and mistakes. And I agree, we live in a technocracy, and believe me, I live in California, man. It feels like a dictatorship half the time. The Dems have done even though I'm running as a Dem, they've done a horrible job.
Well, you can't help that. There's two parties, so you got to pick one.
So look at that. Both of the Christian who supports life extension and says we should support science and technology, right? He believes we're living in a technocracy, and he thinks that's a bad thing. And so does the transhumanist. The transhumanist wants to save us from the technocracy as well, right? So this is the dialectic I was talking about between, between technocracy and technical humanism that's mentioned by Elul. That, you know, it's going to be the carrot and the stick, you know, the entire time.
I get it.
But the point though is that metaphysically, I feel like when I think about Christianity, it's like you said, there's this whole umbrella of God around us, but I can't get out of that. And especially in terms of you believing it, I can't even be I'm a lost person who can't see what you're seeing. And I don't like that. I like the idea that in transhumanism, everybody can be right to the extent that they are an individual, and they can try to improve the world or improve themselves. So you're right. There may be less, I guess there's more freedom with what I'm saying, but maybe less progress and less security for sure. But
I'm not sure that there's more freedom.
It's kind of a dictatorship to me.
Wait. What am I saying? Which would be dictatorial? You have to remember that under my view, right? What did Christians actually bring us? Isn't it the same thing that you always appeal to? When in the essence of freedom, it was Christians who claimed that God gave man. God, this was their axiom, created men equally and gave them certain inevitable rights, right? Or certain rights which...
I don't know. That sounds like he's melding... well, just wait.
Which were beyond dispute. Right in the Declaration where they declared their...
Okay, so there it is. So he's saying that in the Declaration of Independence...
Yep, I knew it.
That Christians argued that God gave man inalienable rights. None of these things are true, right? It's Jefferson who's writing this, right? And he's writing it according to nature's God, not according to a Christian God, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, Jefferson was a deist, right? Deist.
Yeah, he was a deist, and he supported occult movements and stuff. Him and Franklin did.
Yeah,
right?
Franklin was a part of the sex cult. I forgot the name of that sex cult. It was like
Hellfire Club, I believe.
Yeah, Hellfire Club. Yeah, that's right.
Own independence, this was the case. Now you can argue that some of them were deists, and I would agree with you. But the founders, right? There was tens of thousands of contributors to this. Most of them were Christians. They gave you the most freeing doctrine under your worldview that anybody ever has. No technocrat has ever done anything like that. Nothing like that. No transhumanist has ever done anything like that and affirmed these types of freedoms as being institutionally based. A right to speak your mind, for instance. A right to own a gun. A right to not have your privacy invaded. The right not to have the government go through your own effects and papers, the right to not incriminate yourself, the right to do all of these things which are ingrained. They were given to you by Christians, not by any sort of technocracy.
There's a ton of things that transhumanists are doing. We have the...
So all this stuff of universal rights, that was before Christianity, by the way. It came from Plato's Republic. Right? All these notions, he's claiming that these were invented by Christians. Right? Not only were they not upheld by Christians in this country, right, but it seems like they generally were not invented by Christians at all, even in the ancient past, right? So it's just really strange that he would allude to these as being in support of some transhumanist project, right? And saying that everything that you support was actually brought to you by Christianity. Like, that's a really weird statement, I think, at this juncture.
Well, you know, I mean, I guess, like, if you look at it this way, it's like without the Christian monks bringing those books on the philosophers to Europe, then you wouldn't have what would later become like the humanist and the atheist sort of cherry picking those philosophers, and you might not have like this pushback where paganism gets its revenge on Christianity and the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, right? You wouldn't have this kind of development in that way. Sure, it's true to an extent, but it's sort of like saying, "Oh, it's God's fault. The devil, attacks people or something." Like the blame's being shifted in a manipulative way. I would say to put the blame on Christianity when it's like, I don't think it's Christianity's fault that these things happen. I think rather that the enemies of Christianity are the cause of something heading in the direction of transhumanism, because it's the spirit of Antichrist that wants to set up a false utopia. That's what I would say, but I don't know.
Yeah, let me think. Unless von Neumann architecture changes, I don't know about quantum computers because they're not out yet. I don't think it's possible to upload the mind. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think that's possible yet. Yeah. So in a sense, like, unless they're hiding something big, like some crazy eldritch technology, I don't know how they can live forever, and like, how they can avoid it from like glitching or whatever. I know they're gonna cause a lot of shit storm and more problems. I know that for sure. Like more.
Absolutely. It's like you plug in one piece in the boat and another pops up. You know what I mean? Just sink it. I think that's going to be a constant problem, and there's going to be always this update. You know what I mean? Going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of problems. Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is just like, this is just stupid. Andrew is stupid. You need to be asking questions like this and stuff like that.
But that's what I think. A big thing needs, and it's not often discussed, and it should be by someone like Wilson and the Dyers and all these other people, is this distinction why we have to be very particular about what Christianity is and what it isn't. I think a big problem is like when you're talking about a subject like Christianity, there's like anything could be Christianity as long as it's associated with the 5,000 different sects that have popped out of since 2,000 years ago. That's problematic because then, are Mormons Christians, and like people within certain Protestant church will have different views of Christianity than someone right next to them. Everybody has their own faith according to their own minds. And, that's why I have a hard time with the term, because it's like you could shift the blame on Christianity, but really, is it Christianity's fault? And what is the definition of Christianity?
Yeah, I don't think it's Christianity's fault. It's kind of hard to figure out whose fault it is, though. I have to double check a law. If something happened 14th century, I think it's just largely the fault of Enlightenment.
But if you don't like Christianity, right? You're an atheist or you're a transhumanist. If you don't like Christianity, it's always going to be the fault of something you don't like the smear campaign, and that's stupid because it's intellectually.
Well, this guy says
first and foremost.
He actually says he 80% agrees with Christianity, and I don't know, but he says that Buddhism would equally function as a good foundation for transhumanism as Christianity.
He sees Christianity as like a good foundation for a transhumanist Christian society.
Yeah, Buddhism will not.
Which is chiliastic, right?
Yeah, he says
absolutely chiliastic.
Yeah, he says he knows Christian transhumanists. So then, It sounds like the whole debate, Wilson is trying to sell him what it would take to supply a Christian worldview for his transhumanism, because he's saying, "Oh yeah, your transhumanism is cool. You're just missing a ethical basis." So like,
which is ridiculous and isn't true at all, you know, because this is the problem, man, because the ecumenists think this way. They think that they can have their utopia and their orthodoxy too, right? And it's like, can you really? You know, of course the Antichrist is going to come in peace and security and you know, appear to do miracles. That's what it says. You know, and these, what are the miracles? You know, giving sight to the blind. All right. You know, healing the sick, making the ill be able to walk again or something. You know what I'm saying? These are all things that the transhumanists intend to do by technical means, right? Now that could be seen as false miracles. Okay, I'm not saying that's actually the interpretation of the scriptures, because it could have that meaning. That could be a type, but I think that is the type, right? Because all of this has a Christian basis. Like there's some theological framework that they're stealing from Christianity to develop it, but it's perverted. It's almost like a very Gnostic take, I would say, but you know, it's Gnosticism. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not compatible with Buddhism, transhumanism, because Buddha or the Buddhists would say it increases cravings, it's impermanent, and also it's you know, it just increases dukkha, you know what I mean? Because, you know, increases attachment, you know, like if you want to live forever. And also they would say it's not possible to live forever. Like eventually it will fade or perish, you know, but it's just intensify dukkha, basically. You know what I mean? It's like the rich man, let's say a rich man existed. He had like a bunch of cybernetic augments and he had a bunch of harem or whatever. If, you know, that's just more attachment. So he's going to fall harder when eventually his time comes up, when he expires.
Yeah, you know, this is kind of similar to our concept of dying to the passions, right? It's like, but this was what Father Seraphim Rose had to say about transhumanism, and why it's incompatible with something like Christianity. So he says, 60 years ago, Father Seraphim wrote one of the great adulterations of faith with such insight that is still tremendously illuminating today in the face of the further development of the chiliastic outlook which so animates these last times. The kingdom is not of this world. Christianity can be, quote, successful on one condition, that of renouncing the true kingdom and seeking to build up a kingdom in the world. The, quote, earthly kingdom is precisely the goal of the modern mentality. The building of it is the meeting of the modern age. It is not Christian. As Christians, we know whose kingdom that is. That's the kingdom of the Antichrist, in other words. It says the modern idealism that hopes for heaven on earth, hopes likewise for the vague transformation of man, the ideal of the, quote, Superman in diverse forms, conscious or not, which, however absurd, is a great appeal to the mentality that has been trained to believe in evolution and progress. The spirit behind transhumanism is the self-same spirit which, seeking an earthly paradise, prepares the way for Antichrist. For it is Christianity is a crusade, Christ an idea, both in the service of a world transformed by scientific and social techniques, and a man virtually deified by the waking of a new consciousness. This lies before us.
Yeah, I think authentic Christianity is not compatible with transhumanism. You know, it doesn't seem to be. Yeah.
Because of a very similar point that you're making, because Christianity is not of this world. It's not so obsessed with the material. And this is obsessed with building up this utopian, you know, perfect world. But it's all, you know, technical. And in reality, it's a freedom that enslaves, right? It's like you're enslaved to the things that you own. A very Fight Club-esque type statement, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. Definitely, yeah, it makes sense.
The things you own end up owning you, right?
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, yes.
Right to create technology that overcomes cancer. We have the right to create technology that can overcome cold or hunger and things like, I mean, we're doing things all the time. Why do you think people are living these incredible lives, traveling all over in jets? What are there, 30,000 planes and jets right now in the air? I mean, we are doing this, and this is not something that you can say is a Christian-oriented process. This is a transhumanist-oriented process. All
Bull.
this wild
That
science
is
and technology.
total. First of all, that's total bull. Inside of the science, especially when you're talking about medical science, right? You have to have guiding ethical principles for this, or you end up with things like eugenics. You end up with these kind of horrible processes where you could begin to do mass experimentation on groups of people that you don't like. You can't tell me that that would curtail scientific progress, because it wouldn't. It would accelerate it drastically if we practiced unethical science, and you know that that's the case. Where do they draw these ethics from for not being able to do these horrific experiments on people for the purpose of scientific progress? Science can't make the claim not to. Its purpose is not to do that. Science itself cannot claim that you can't do unethical experimentation to achieve your technocratic future. That's Christian.
This is so weird, because it's humans who create the science, right? So if it's totally guided by humans, then there shouldn't be any sense in which, science is inherently bad, so that practicing science has bad ethical outcomes, right, for humans, right? So this is the thing. If science is inherently bad or inherently unethical, then it constantly has to be upheld or checked by something outside of science, which is ethics or human values, right, or Christian morality, or any of these things, right?
Yeah. Which I think the real Christian perspective on science isn't that it's not inherently bad in itself, but rather, when it becomes something that dictates truth over the scriptures, then it becomes a problem. If science is telling us that, man evolved from apes, and scripture's telling us something different, then scripture is over the scientific, thing. Obviously they got it wrong. And see, we live in a world of skeptics, and where they're blending philosophy with science to come to their conclusions. And really it's just like, this is a polemic and rhetoric to refute the Christian worldview, and it was always intended to be that. If Christianity bows down to science, then science is overstepping its bounds, I would say. In the correct context, Christians can look towards science for things we can know. But like I said, if it's something that's being used to go over scripture, then it's wrong, and it needs to be, like you said, compared to a Christian morality and a worldview first.
Christian ethics you're drawing from, sir. That's Abrahamic ethics that you're drawing.
There it is. So Christian ethics, and then he retracts to say Abrahamic ethics as well. So now it's just to reiterate what that means Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So
that's Christian ethics you're drawing from, sir. That's Abrahamic ethics that you're drawing from for the purpose of what ethics keep this confined, what puts the guardrails on it, in other words, right? You have no oughts to give anybody for what guardrails should be there from science, except preferences that you have informed by my religious worldview. You didn't come from, sir. That's Abrahamic ethics that you're claim that you can't do unethical experimentation to achieve your technocratic future. That's Christian ethics you're drawing from, sir. That's Abrahamic ethics that you're drawing from for the purpose of what ethics keep this confined, what puts the guardrails on it, in other words, right? You have no oughts to give anybody for what guardrails should be there from science, except preferences that you have informed by my religious worldview.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So the scientific world view is being guided by oughts from the Abrahamic system of religions. It's total like what a weird statement, right? It's just a really weird statement if you break it down.
You didn't come to this religious worldview yourself. It came from your Catholic upbringing. It came from the Christians around you telling.
Wait, so are you telling your audience that this guy's a transhumanist because he's a he was raised a Catholic? I mean, like what?
I think what he's saying, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, is that transhumanism is a response to Christian ethics. You know, this is, and the basis of it is in a distortion of Christian, the Christian worldview in some way.
Well, I wish he would say that more clearly. Like, I wish he would say more clearly, like, oh, no, actually, what your view is a perversion of Christian ethics instead of saying it's based on it. Because what it sounds like he's saying is that, you know, you need oughts to be supplied to you from Christian ethics because you have no worldview, because your worldview literally came from your Catholic upbringing. It's like, what?
My interpretation of it was this, is that, transhumanism developed as a reply to Christianity.
Well, where did he say that it challenges it at all? He's saying that it supports it.
He's saying that Christianity supports transhumanism?
It seems that way because he's saying, look, your Catholic upbringing caused you to become a transhumanist.
I would say that statement could be true. And this goes back to this letter I keep bringing up, Father Seraphim to Thomas Merton. And Thomas Merton was a Roman Catholic monk, which was obsessed with idealistic causes like, protests and all these type of things. The point, what I'm trying to make is that the Roman Catholic view of the church being an institution and the cause of the church
they were
being
proto-transhumanists.
Efficiency, right? Is like that is the prototype of the transhumanist or the humanist worldview. It did.
But
This did. But this is why I go back to the distinction: is like, is Roman Catholicism Christianity?
Yeah, but here's the thing: he's saying that because you're a Roman Catholic, you need that for your worldview. But like, why would that be a point against his worldview?
I think what he's saying is that, the fact of the matter is the man's rejecting Christianity vehemently, but at the same time, he's using, a Christian base for his, that's the root of the worldview in itself, right? So he's acting as if like, what you're saying, you wouldn't even have the ability to say this thing unless you had a basis in our ethics. And it is a kind of convoluted statement, but that's
right,
what
because the thing is that he's saying that the ethics has to be supplied externally from his worldview to transhumanism. So it's kind of weird then for him to also make the statement, well, actually, it was your ethics were rooted in our worldview the whole time. It's like a weird philosophical sleight of hand he's pulled here.
I think there's truth to the statement, but it could be worded better, I guess. From my perspective, I feel like if I had a conversation with him, I could make that argument. And
what about Abrahamic? What about throwing Abrahamic in there?
When he said that, I don't think he was talking about Judaism and Islam, but
I mean, that's literally what the word means. I mean, but yeah.
Technically, right?
Yeah,
people could make that argument. I wouldn't say that. I would say that, if from my perspective, it's like Abraham, that's Christianity.
Yeah, I think that's a really weird term to use. He also uses the term Judeo-Christian later.
Well, think about this. I mean, that term I don't agree with, right? Because I don't believe that Christianity came out of Judaism. But Abrahamic, I don't see an issue with that, because Christ says, Abraham seen my day and was happy, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said that to the Pharisees. And what he means by that is like, Abraham had seen the coming of Christ, the incarnation, and he had seen that. So.
Right, but it's clear that Muslims and Jews don't believe that about Abraham. So that's what's weird about the term itself.
But you know, but is he making in the statement? Was he referring to them?
That's what I mean. It's a very unclear term, unopportune term to be using. Right. So I just simply point to the fact that you could have used a way more accurate term if you were talking just about Christianity.
No, sorry. Sorry to interrupt, but you know, Sultan Istvan, he has a book called The Transhumanist Wager.
Right. He held it up earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, it has lots of reviews on Amazon, like over 1,000. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of reviews. Yeah, over 1,000 reviews on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You what is and is not ethical through a course of your entire life, and so your
good
view
point,
aligns
though,
with that.
before
So
you
at the
move
same
on
time, you
from this, is something that their patriarchs often say is that, you know, they have the same God as Muslims and Jews, that they share the same father. Hold on one second.
Right. The Jews. Yeah, we'll wait for him to come back. Oh, there he is.
But yeah, so I'm sorry, someone's talking to me. But yeah, they say, you know, that everybody has the same God. The Muslims, you know, Orthodox, and Jews all share the same God, the Father. And there's a book called Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, and the very first page is it's a little article called "Do We Share the Same God as the Other Abrahamic Religions?" And the answer is no. You know what I mean? It's like if we were to examine that claim, but what is that rooted in? Why do these patriarchs view it that way? And if you read The Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly P. Hall, he says the Mason bows at every altar and submits to every creed, which is a complete contradiction to Orthodox, theology, that we have one creed, one God, one, sort of one gospel. So I don't know, that there is an issue there within the hierarchical level of what we're talking about as far as Andrew's concerned. Is he making that argument? I don't know. But at the same time, even if he isn't, it's there and he's submitted to it.
Steal my view to say, hey, this is what's ethical inside of science to reach this utopian future. You also are busy degrading it and saying that somehow it's entrapping and it's non-freeing and it's curtailing freedom. It's like you got to pick a lane there, man.
I'm not sure I'm bashing it here. And I want to say also, it's not just we're picking from you. We're picking from all the world religions and all the world philosophies. I mean, Buddhism and Confucianism and the Chinese. I mean, Krishna and Hinduism. There's a whole bunch of things we're picking
religion, right?
in order to move forward. But it's not just religion. It's the philosophies that have evolved, the Enlightenment and things like that. It's this idea of just using as much reason and rationality as we can. But let me just say, we live in a Judeo-Christian world. I'm grateful for that. I think I promote that, to be honest with you. I think that is one of the best frameworks.
So there, he's saying we live in a Judeo-Christian world. Andrew obviously visibly agreeing with him. So, but yeah, he's going to actually say that later.
If I have a neighbor, I hope he's a born-again Christian, because most born-again Christians are very, very fine people.
So there's him saying that he rather live to a next to a Christian than other types or other groups.
Don't you realize that this is now a contradictory worldview? The whole idea here for you is
borrowing is not making it contradictory.
Hang on, Christians are the best and the finest and the greatest when it comes to the very ethical systems that you would like to see upheld. And yet, when they argue against the teleology, the very thing that informs this great ethical system and model that you love, you reject that aspect because that's an aspect that Zoltan doesn't like. I just don't like that part. Hang on.
I got it, but that's not how tautology works. You can't say one thing equals another and therefore it is. Some things differ. There's nuances. We like Christian Judeo. The West is the best. Don't get me wrong. But I think at some point, I people have a right to say, I just don't see the greater framework that you're talking about with God or the grace of God and the Holy Spirit and all those things. I don't see that. Like I said, I would like to. I just don't. And I still think, though, despite that, I can take your ethical framework, maybe 70 or 80% of it, and say, this is going to be great for transhumanism.
Right. And then you keep out the whole part that makes it work, right? And the reason we come up, the reason you end up with these like sick weirdo cults and stuff like this that came out of early Christianity in the United States, especially Protestantism, is because they did exactly that. They took 70 or 80%, all the stuff they liked, right? That we don't like the murder stuff and we don't like the, thou shalt not steal stuff and blah, blah, blah. We'll adopt all of that, right? But the idea of the ethical teachings of Jesus Christ and the idea of the grounded foundation and the idea of the mercy of God, things like this, they easily reject. And then they begin to inform it with other crazy things, right?
So yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, he's saying that they've preserved 100% of the teachings of the church, and that also that that he's rejecting like 20% of it, which would be very helpful. That he's engaging in a sort of Protestant Reformation, using 80% of Christianity to supply his ethical framework, where he should use all of Christianity to supply his ethical framework for transhumanism. I mean, it's just an astounding, quote unquote, contest. Right?
We're going to take the 80% we like, and then we're going to carve off the stuff that we don't like. But the only thing that makes the ethical system work, this great ethical system that you claim you follow and you've adopted 80% of, is the grounding foundation in God. That's the only thing that makes it work. The entire epistemology, the ontology, the entirety of being, the entirety of what makes humans humans, that's grounded. Our whole epistemology is grounded in God. And what you've done
Andrew,
is
honestly, why can't I take 80% and make it work? Why can't I take your 80% and say that's the greatest 80% we have?
Look, you can, but here's your problem. Your problem comes in where we get into prescriptions. Now,
he said you can just take the 80% and totally hijack Christianity in service of transhumanism.
We're moving into prescriptions for society. When we're talking about prescriptions in the United States, right, you can't carve off 80% and then say it's just preference that I have, because preferences change. They change over time. You could have preferences to have slaves. You could have preferences to do this. You could have preferences to do all of these things. The thing that makes Christian ethics so much more superior to everything else that you're going to find is that the ethical standards are unchanging. That's the whole designation of them. They are unchanging throughout the ages. That's the
Andrew,
whole point.
This isn't working for me philosophically. Like, you're not making an argument that I can actually follow. I think I can take your 80% and use it and just say, this is great. Thank you for the Judeo-Christian framework.
Yeah, I get that. Nobody's arguing that.
But why do I need to believe in that 20% in order for it to last? I think Democrats, Republicans can take that 80%.
Wait a second. Hang on. What we're talking about here in this debate specifically is prescriptions for the United States and which of these worldviews is better. That's what we're talking about, better in outcome for the people of the United States. If it's the case that Christian ethics, the reliance on it to not be non-preferential base, is that it's grounded in the unchanging identity of God and the unchanging standards of God, that's what makes Christian ethics work. If you just carve off 80% and say, oh, I have them now, and they're all just preferences, those preferences can be changing. They're not unchanging. So if that's the case, you apply those standards right now because you like them so much, right? You have to concede that preferences change over time. If your preference is going to change over time, what's the point of carving off this? It's going to change, right? It's going to change in 20
Andrew,
years.
I used the scientific method to approve 80% of that Christian ideology. It worked, and I'm moving forward. And now if we change, and I agree with you.
Did he just say he uses the scientific method to improve the remaining aspects of Christianity? Because that doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's what he did say. Yeah, he's claiming that he does that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Are you also streaming today, or?
Yeah. I should be streaming soon. We'll get out of here soon. Or we're supposed to. This is supposed to end at so Neurojack we do have to go soon here. So so I see he's not on the stream right now. So if you come back, we got to end this up and move forward here. Yep. To the machine lives. Yep.
We might become robots, and should robots have rights? We might become cyborgs. Should cyborgs live forever? Should we change ourselves entirely, not give birth anymore, go off planet? Maybe we're going to need a new set of rules, and then the scientific method will inform that. But the point is, right now, the 80% of the Christian doctrine I've taken, the Judeo-Christian framework that we all live by, has been very effective, and I think the scientific method has shown that to be the case. But it's okay that we might lose to 60% or 40% and maybe even entirely leave the doctrine of Christianity behind here in 1,000 years when we become something else completely non-human. That's okay for me. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but do you understand, again, that all you're doing is giving me a sequence of emotional states and preferences? This is not an argument to begin with. The entirety of what you're saying here is that I have an emotional state in my head and a preference for this thing. Not any ought for why anybody ought to follow this thing. And when you're talking about prescriptively, it's a disaster anyway. We could just talk specifically about prescriptions here in society. The technocratic future, which was promised to us, is not great. We're using technologies for all sorts of unethical things, often driven by people who share your worldview and not by mine. A great example of this is transgender ideology. The idea of being able to transcend your sexuality, I'm guessing you don't have a problem with. That would be part of a transhumanist future if a person chooses to do that. And yet what happens with this unethical science? They start mutilating children, right? They start moving into the indoctrination to mutilate children. They move into the indoctrination of being able to mutilate men, women, things like this. And the reason that this 80% doesn't work is because you adopt the 80% that you like, and then what about that other 20% that says you can't do that? What about that other 20% that says, hey, when we have marriage, it needs to mean something? You can't have homosexual marriage, for instance, right? There has to be meaning there. There has to be something in the institution that grounds it.
Yeah, I just feel he's stupid. The proper course would have been to, attack his epistemological or epistemic claim of the scientific method being able to improve a tradition in the first place, because that's retarded. That you can claim you can use scientific method to deal with metaphysical stuff. It's not meant to deal with metaphysical stuff. I mean, that's kind of obvious though. But yeah, Andrew is kind of a pseudo-intellectual, basically. That's all. What Zoltan said is pseudo-intellectual too. That's very dumb. Yeah. And I can use the scientific method to tell you how to treat your neighbor or something like that. Or it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And something higher than yourself to make this work. These are all things that transhumanists would have to necessarily be against. They're trying to transcend these very limitations, which are put on as guardrails and bumpers for the social, for socially society to work at all.
If I had been living under the things you're talking about, we would still be living in teepees.
How?
I mean, there has to be some progress.
No, we wouldn't.
Yes,
No, we
we
wouldn't.
would. You'd be living this Christian dictatorship where you can't actually move too far forward.
Isn't that funny? Right? The transhumanist says the same thing to him, right? When he supports modern progress, right? But he doesn't support transhumanism. Then that he says to people like me, right, that we want to go back and live in caves, because we don't support, the modern world. Right?
Yeah.
So
Andrew is retarded. Let me give you, this is a pattern we see with everything. Like raw milk is healthier than pasteurized milk from cows stuck up in barns. If the cow is healthy and grass-fed and pastured, you can drink the milk raw and it's actually healthier. Right. It has CLA, it has beneficial bacteria that help digest the lactose. If you're lactose intolerant, you can still drink raw milk. You believe that if it's from healthy cow? Because it has bacteria that aid in digestion. But the reason I mentioned that is because the progress leads to new problems, basically, and it leads to destroying what was once good, like raw milk. You can find that pattern with everything. Soil erosion, biodiversity, traditions. That's probably the most important. That's what progress does. Maybe there's no progress. Maybe it's just progress is degeneration in some way. That makes sense. Like you can't have progress without degeneration or something. Or maybe that's what the true face of progress, degeneration.
Moves things forward is having these ability to do all these wild things. Now, don't get me wrong. Some things I don't believe in at all. I mean, some things are like when it comes to transgender children, I'm completely not for that. I've never been for that. I've publicly been against that the whole time. Now, if an adult, maybe a 25-year-old wants to do something to their body, change their sex, that's fine for them to do it. But I think there are some things that people should be able to do and not be within your framework. And that's what evolves us. That's what moves us
changing
forward.
standard, a changing ethical standard. And because of that, you end up with absolute chaos. And here's the thing that's so funny about this, right? You made a bold claim there, which is ridiculous. We'd be living under a Christian dictatorship. Sir, we've had Christian monarchs for most of human history, at least known human history, during the biggest technological advances that we had since the Industrial Revolution, right? You claim that there's some kind of sort of anti-progress with Christianity when you clearly know that the historic standard is that there's been tons of progress under Christian ethical leadership all over the world for years and years and years, thousands of years, in fact. The idea that we curtail technology.
So see, there it is. It's a huge contradiction, right? Because he said Christianity, right, or Christian ethics does curtail scientific progress, because he said there's tons more science and technological progress that would be made if we just disregarded the ethics. And now he's saying, no, it's the ethical boundaries which cause the progress. Right? So he's literally said both. Right? It's very confusing.
Man, it's called it's a social engineering. You see, they're trying to mix, Christian eschatological, imagery with the transhumanist imagery. So Christians and other so-called reactionary people can get on board with the transhumanist agenda. You see what I mean? So that's why it seems like they're reading from scripts or they're following some directives. It's like social engineering in some sense.
Yeah. I mean, he literally said to the guy that that the progress would increase if we disregarded ethics. And now he's saying, no, it's Christian ethics which cause the progress. It's wild. Let me play it again.
Most of human history, at least known human history, during the biggest technological advances that we had since the Industrial Revolution, right? You claim that there's some kind of sort of anti-progress with Christianity when you clearly know that the historic standard is that there's been tons of progress under Christian ethical leadership all over the world for years and years and years, thousands of years, in fact. The idea that we curtail technology when it's indeed Christian scientists often who propel technology and used to propel technology and were funded by large Christian institutions, the Catholic Church and others. They just also have oughts to use as scientific progression towards something useful. Hey, that's great. We can empirically determine that you're hungry. That doesn't tell us what we should do about that. That's where you need to have the church. You need to have these types of grounded ethical foundations come in and say, well, we ought to feed you. Right? Well, that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to go ahead and feed you. And so that's what they do. They're able to make these societal prescriptions. You can't even decide whether or not, men can be women and women can be men.
So you see that is and ought is a merger of Christianity and technology. Technology supplies the is, and then Christianity supplies the ought. Is that kind of what he's saying? I mean, this is a really weird line of argumentation.
Yeah, it's like social engineering. The kind of Hegelian kind of game they're engaging in. So, I mean, that's what it is like. It's a Hegelian game. Basically, if you talk to my Slovenian friend, you would understand what's going on. You know what I mean? My Slovenian friend, he's kind of evil. You know what I mean? He is evil. He's into all of the occult that led to transhumanism. He embraced it and basically sees it in both Christian terms, and even now he's showing interest in Zoroastrianism. He sees it, the philosophy or the second coming and other stuff in transhumanist terms. You see what I mean? They're just trying to merge them. I mean, which is bad, of course. That's what they're trying to do, to justify the future. And so I think the H+1 people and other stuff, they have some weird occult beliefs, esoteric beliefs. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's maybe this it's just a script he's reading from me. The guy was offered probably 100,000 or something for this. How many views does this video have that you're watching? I'm just curious, how many views does it have?
Yeah, we were talking about that because this video does not have that many views, right? But the channel has 1 million subscribers, right? So it's almost 1 million 899K subscribers and only 30,000 views. So it's
Well, those
weird.
views will grow, though, is the thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And it's you create chaos inside of the very
No,
ethos of
we can
stability.
decide that. Men can be women and women can be men. It just happens to be that we need to take that 20% that we don't agree with and go out into the world with that and start experimenting, start evolving.
No,
I don't
they can't.
understand
Men
why we can't have this
be
framework
women.
you're talking about.
Men can't be women, and women can't.
Oh,
be
of course
men, in
they
fact.
can be, man. That you can
Of course
totally
they
change
can't be.
DNA. We're all good. There's going to be all sorts of possibilities here within
Sir,
5 or 10 years.
Sir, let me ask you something. Scientifically speaking, right? If a man puts on a wig and cuts off his penis and declares himself a woman.
Hi, humans. It's Zoe London from Pauvre Voisin, and
Oh.
today we are discussing
What the hell?
What?
chapter 6 of How to Win Friends.
I'm actually gonna watch this entire commercial. It's 3 minutes long. So we'll watch this commercial and then we'll leave NeuroJack's stream because I have to go do my stream. But yeah, I'm interested to see where this is going. And I definitely like to see some of her glass products. You mean?
Influence people. So part 2, chapter
Oh wait, she's trying to influence people. Yeah, that explains a lot.
3. And the title of the chapter is How to Make Other People Like You Instantly. So as we know, there's always a principle at the end of the chapter. And the principle at the end of this chapter is make the other person feel important and do it genuinely. So it's a very simple chapter. It's not very long, but basically, like, you know, when somebody feels like they're valued and important and you respect them, they're going to want to be around you, right? And oppositely, you know, if somebody feels like they're not important to you, like you don't value them and like you don't have respect for them, they're not going to want to be around you. So it's not that crazy of a principle. Again, you want to make another person feel important and you want to do it genuinely. So you don't want to just be, you know, fake compliments, sort of like just trying to get them to like you. Because again, everybody, unless they're like completely delusionally narcissistic, everybody is able to clock a fake compliment. Everybody is able to clock when somebody is maybe trying to finesse you, right? So especially in a business context, you don't want to just be blowing smoke up people's asses. But I also think that it shouldn't be that hard for you to find something to be able to compliment somebody on, or something to be able to, you know, recognize in somebody else that might be unique to them. And that could be as simple as Carnegie has an example in the chapter where
those actually might be AI titties for sure.
somebody was interviewing somebody else important. Again, this is back in the 1930s, and this person was notoriously very busy, not super down to be interviewed a lot. He did not like to be sort of, you know, finessed, right? But the person that was interviewing him took the time to recognize how remarkable the architecture of the waiting room that he was in. And he complimented the person he was interviewing on how beautiful and how interesting the layout of the waiting room was. As it turned out, the person that he was interviewing took a lot of pride in the setup of his office, of his waiting room, and had a lot to talk about it. And he really enjoyed talking to the interviewer about, you know, the intricacies of the details on the walls and stuff like that, because it was something that was important to him, and the interviewer made him feel important. And the interviewer walked away knowing that the interviewee actually had a lot of respect for him and genuinely enjoyed the interview. And that is something that is so simple. So you don't have to make somebody feel important by making them feel like they are the king of the world or anything. It's mostly just when you see something that is unique about somebody else, and unique that seems to be in an intentional way, go out of your way to acknowledge it, because anything that is unique to a person is just going to make somebody feel
Like, who made this ad? It just says youtube.com. It says visit how to make people like you instantly by youtube.com. So, like, what exactly is this ad selling? I'm really confused.
If you click the visit site, maybe it takes you.
Yeah, it just takes you to YouTube. It's weird. Oh wait, no, it takes you to her channel.
Oh.
Oh, okay. So this is her channel. Here, hold on. Let me see this. Zoe London. So she's got 4,000 subscribers. So how did she get promoted on here? This is really weird.
She probably paid.
She paid. Yeah, she's only got like 255 views, 145 views. How is she promoted?
She paid probably for those advertisements. I
She
think
got
you
a
can.
bunch of videos.
She's probably well off, and she paid for the advertisement.
Here's another video.
Hi, Girly Pops. Well,
Yeah, she's got her titties out, like in like a couple of these videos. Yeah, like so. Yeah, so she might not be AI. Holy moly, guys! All right,
I think she just had plastic surgery.
yeah, she got total. Yeah, she got crazy plastic surgery. But yeah,
because of the fact that it goes without saying that the unique thing is something that is special to them themselves. So yeah, that is basically the gist of chapter 6 or chapter 3 of part 2 of How to Influence and Influence People. And again, the name of the chapter is how to make other people like you instantly. And the principle of the chapter is make the other person, feel important, and to do it genuinely.
oh my god. All right. Well, anyways, all right. So, are you here, Lorp? Yeah, I don't know if Lorp is here, so I guess we'll just leave. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I gotta actually go do my show.
Yeah,
so.
you can just leave. I mean,
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to leave. So yeah, so Neurojack, if you're out there, we gotta peace out here. Yeah, so as I said, I only have 2 to 3 hours so I can do my show. But yeah, blessings to all the people that are there. And yeah, I don't have a way to kick Lorp from the studio, so the show will just go on with nothing, nobody here. I guess. But all right. Anyways, have a blessed day. We'll play this later. Yeah.
see you later.
Yeah, peace.
Is there anyone out in the audience?